Yeah.
The meeting's done to order at June 10, 2026. Freestone County Commission Board is a special call board. We do have a first proposal in Georgia Chapter 551, Texas Government Code, also as amended, also known as the Texas Public Meetings Act. Thank you, ma'am.
Got the mic on?
Public comments, any members of the public who would like to speak, we each have 3 minutes to do so. And it may be on matters that are not appearing on the agenda today. And we all have a minute today. Okay. No public comments. Can I try back that? Okay. Back to public comments. Any of the members of the public that would like to speak today will each have 3 minutes. You need to speak on something that is not an agenda item. I think everybody's here for items on the agenda. So if there is no public speaking today, we'll move to item number 1 on the agenda, which is
Go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely want to speak. I didn't know we were moving that quickly.
Are you wanting to speak about the data center center?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's going to be item number 10.
Oh, that is.
Yes, sir. I'm not going to be right there. Okay, item number 1 on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the June 3rd, 2026 regular meeting. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, aye. Motion carried. Item number 2, budget transfer to the minutes.
Make a motion to approve budget transfers and amendments.
I second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, aye. Motion carried. Item number 3 is to approve the budget.
This is insurance, right?
Utilities and insurance, utilities and insurance, and there's one for unclaimed money.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the pay the bills.
I second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye. Motion carried. Item number 4 is to approve payroll.
We don't have one.
Okay, there is no payroll for this board. Item number 5 is reports. We have a report for the Fish Precinct 1, John Thorne, for the month of May. And a report from our district clerk for the month of May. And a report from our county clerk for the month of May.
discussed it, but it did not get voted on.
I'd like to hope we continue the bond, draft the road, county road. 521, 534.
I second.
A motion and a second to continue and accept the renewal of the bond for the county roads at 531, 534.
Just a minute. I have a road use agreement, but I haven't been able to look at it and see everything is in it, so I'd like to, for the one I've got, I'd just rather take mine to the next meeting.
We'll take action on the one bond on that pertains to county road 531, 534. Commissioner Bridges' bond will be tabled to the next meeting.
One's on one on one.
I'm sorry, what?
County road, one, 1,000 on county road.
And your motion was to
Continue.
allow the continuance of the bond. Is there a second? Second.
Richard. Mike second.
One made the second.
Richard seconded that bond.
Andy's.
Andy.
I make a motion, Richard
Make a
second.
motion, Richard seconded.
All in favor, aye. Motion carries.
Now, on this road use agreement, since it's being tabled,
Need a motion to table.
yeah,
Is there a motion to table?
I'll make a motion to table road use agreement for Placentia Road.
Have a second.
I second.
The motion is second, all in favor, aye. Motion carries. Item number 9 is item number 8 is to approve bonds and education certificates. I do have cybersecurity awareness training for written off. Cybersecurity awareness training for the bond office. And I have a certification for local exam. Any other honoring certificates?
I'll bring that next time, I forgot it.
Have a motion to accept these?
Make that motion.
Second. Is there a second?
Oh, I second.
All in favor, aye. Motion carried. Now, item number 9 would be to present the Freestone County Courthouse Restoration Committee's recommendation for construction manager degrees and consider possible action on awarding the contract for Steve and Paul Paul.
Good afternoon.
Hello again.
Hey, how's it going? As all of you know, we advertised for a senior risk in the local paper and actually made a couple of national websites. So we sent out roughly 11 invitations to individual companies. We had about 3 others that picked up off the internet. And we had 4 companies that turned in statements of qualifications. We had a committee that reviewed the statement of qualifications, and that consisted of your auditor, and Karen, kill me if I get this wrong, but she's your assistant.
Yes.
Okay, and the judge. So they reviewed all of them, and then they decided, since we had 4, that we would interview each one of the applicants. So we interviewed the 4 applicants, and to make a long story short, the one that the committee would recommend to the commissioners is J.C. Stoddard out of San Antonio for your CM at risk.
Okay.
So, what the CM at risk is a little different. They were selected based on qualifications, and if you approve this selection and allow the judge to sign the general contract, we will meet the THC requirements for having a contractor to do the complete restoration. The contractor does understand that we're going to be working through the work, basically doing outside work first, giving y'all some time to get to a point where the courthouse can be vacated. There'll be, yes, sir.
When are we gonna find out what this is gonna cost?
That's a Jim question right there. What part of the,
I mean, when are we gonna, we gotta get to the point where we gotta approve whether we can swing this or not, you know?
Well, the way we have it set up is there will be 2 guaranteed maximum prices. So
there's bids, we still got bids to go.
yes.
Okay.
I mean,
That's all I need to know.
all you're doing is selecting.
Okay, just make sure what we're approving, okay.
Yeah, and then they are going to bring a guaranteed maximum price.
Okay.
The difference with this delivery method is I've already told them that we're going to go through it in a pretty slow and deliberate way to get to that GMP, because when they bring that GMP and it's accepted by the county, as long as you, the owner, don't change anything, that is your guaranteed maximum price.
Okay.
The world can fall apart.
We hadn't got that
and
number
that's
yet.
all.
We're still waiting.
No,
Listen,
sir,
I just
if
double
you
checking
approve
where we were
that-
at, because we've done so much on this. I'm just
No,
making sure
you
we're.
aren't approving any money expenditures
Okay.
right now.
Do we need a motion to go ahead?
yes, need a motion to approve the, is it J.C. Stoddard, is that correct?
It is J.C. Stoddard Construction out of San Antonio.
That's your motion, Andy?
That's motion right in.
Yeah.
Have a second.
I second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye. Motion carried. Thank you, Jim.
Fine, well, I'll get in touch with them and then be following up with you and Karen. And I'll get you their $12.95 from you. So,
Thank you very much, sir. Item number 10 is to discuss the matter of proposed designation of certain property in unincorporated Freestone County as a reinvestment zone under subchapter 6.312 of the tax code in regards to the public hearing which we have set on Wednesday, June the 17th. Today, as we get into this, we do have some representatives from Side 1 that is going to be here to answer questions. Now, if you start off, I know you'll have a PowerPoint or information you'd like to share. If you got that, or any questions, so
Sure. Is this on?
yeah.
Yes. Thought we'd introduce ourselves, just a couple of slides to set some framework and maybe answer some of your questions, and then we're here for Q&A. Does that sound good? Okay. I'm Katie Hancock. I'm the Vice President of Community Affairs for Cyrus One. What that means is I'm here through this process of introducing ourselves, and then as we become, as we become members of the community, supporting community engagement, bidding, and any issues any opportunities to work together. And then I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves and talk about a couple things.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Crew Rubble. My friends call me Crew. You can call me Crew. I'm serving as the Chief Strategy Officer for Cyrus One. Get to work with brilliant colleagues like Katie and Erica. And really keen for your guys' engagement and questions. So thank you for taking the time.
Hi, and I'm Erica Estrada. I'm the site acquisition manager for this project. So I've been really involved in the acquisition of the land, all the diligence that was done in the process, and then working with our design and construction team as we proceed with the project. I'm so happy to get your questions, and I really appreciate everybody being here today.
Is this loud enough if I talk with this microphone here?
No.
No? Okay. Okay, no problem. No problem. All right, hi. I guess just to start with,
That's as high as it goes. The acoustics are really bad in here. So the acoustics are really bad in here, so that's as loud as it gets. We have 2 speakers because it's a historical building, so that's just as loud as it is.
The microphone works better.
Mic closer to the mouth.
This is how it is in court every day. This is just what we get. So if we can move closer, we might find a better seat or something, but this is literally lousy kids. We have an issue with it daily.
Well, we can hear you, so she'll just speak louder, we can hear her. Is that any better? Okay. Okay, awesome. All right, here we go. I'd like to start with just a little bit of an explanation of what data centers are so that we're all on the same page. I think sometimes we have different expectations or different awareness. I think there is currently a lot of bad information out there right now. I think there is a tendency to sort of paint data center developers with one broad brush, when in fact there are lots of variances and differences in the types of developers that you might have in your community. As you know, there's high demand for this utility-grade digital infrastructure right now. And so there are developers sort of coming out of the woodwork who don't have perhaps the experience that we have. So wanted to take the time today to introduce ourselves. We've been in the community before, but definitely there's been a lot more questions and awareness in recent weeks. So we're glad to be here. We really appreciate your engagement and wanting to ask questions and know more, because you care about your community and we appreciate that. So just a quick level set on what is a data center. So it's a secure building that houses servers, computers. It's the cloud, so that's where, I often say, I think I touch a data center maybe 10 times before I leave the house in the morning, for good or bad. I'm waking up with my phone alarm, I'm probably checking texts, I'm probably checking email, I'm definitely checking the weather to figure out what I'm going to wear that day, because you never know in Texas. I'm going to check my email. Going to probably stream something on Spotify while I get dressed, and I'm going to map before I ever even leave the house and touch the data center that I live 6 or 7 times. So that's kind of what a data center is and how it exists in our lives. And then of course we get to work, and we're some of us working remotely. That requires a data center. The software that we use while we're at work, the banking that we do during the day, and then in the evening, ideally we're maybe online shopping or Netflix or streaming, So just wanted to kind of level set on why we have data centers. They're also really important, an important component to not only our global economic growth, but national security, health outcomes, health treatment. So everything is going to the cloud. Everything requires big data to solve big problems. So that's why we have them. That's why we're hearing more about them. That's why more of them are being built. So I just like to level set with a little bit of an explanation and some context on what a data center is. And then we'll talk a little bit about who Cyrus One is. And I want to emphasize this because this is that fly-by-night thing that I was talking about earlier. Different data center developers do things in different ways. I joined Cyrus One fairly recently, and it's really important to me that I, not hitch my wagon to a bad horse, that I aligned with a data center developer. I've been in this industry for 6 years, but I wanted to align with someone that shares my values, and that I can go out in front of people like you and hold my head high knowing that we're going to do the right thing. And we'll get into some of the ways that Cyrus One builds and operates that sort of endear me to it. But what I think is really important to know is that we've been around for 25 years. So we are not new to this. We do what we say we're going to do. We've delivered 60 data centers, which all operate flawlessly. We haven't had any catastrophes or spills or any of these things that are being suggested in the public narrative today. It's just not the kind of operation we run. We wouldn't want our employees to work in such a situation as that. Safety is of paramount importance to us. We've been, like I said, we've been around 25 years. We're backed by 2 of the world's largest private equity investors. So we've got that backbone and that strength to build a high quality operation and deliver the value that we commit to. Cover everything. So I know these, we wanted to just right up front tell you how we do with the issues of the day, water, power, and the environment. Water, that's the big one. We use a closed loop system. So the water is usually trucked in, put into the closed loop system, it's sealed, and that water is a vehicle for cooling. It goes through the servers, it gets warm, it goes into a chiller, it gets cooled, and it goes round and round in perpetuity like that. Water in your home AC, or your radiator, or your swimming pool, it's constantly recirculated. So the water we require is about 1,100 gallons a day for kitchens and restrooms and domestic use. Some landscaping, but generally 1,100 gallons a day per building is what we are required to use for water. With respect to power, Cyrus One pays for the cost of servicing its projects. So we're not asking the utility to come in and pass on to ratepayers the cost of new transmission lines or substations. We spend tens of millions of dollars to make sure we're being a responsible corporate citizen and covering our costs for power. And then through environment, Cyrus One does some really cool work around environment. In water-stressed regions, we are water positive, meaning that we buy credits, buy more water than we require to create a net positive benefit for the community. We are on track to be carbon neutral by 2030. And we have a fully transparent, just published this year's ESG report, which has all of those environmental metrics in it. So we're fully transparent about anything that impacts the environment. So I wanted to hit those right up front. We're having this behind me.
Can we access the ESG report?
Yes. Absolutely. Cyrus1.com. Sound, another huge issue. We model all of our developments before we build them so that we know exactly what the sound emissions are set to be. In this circumstance, we're looking at 60 dBA by day, 50 by night. Erica, my colleague who's got responsibility for the project itself, can get into more detail on that. And light, that's another huge misconception. I think sometimes people maybe assume that there's work happening outside, therefore we're going to need these kind of stadium-style lights. There is no work that happens outside of a data center. We have downcast lighting with shields around it. It's low-level lighting just to light the security perimeter so that the cameras can see what's happening within the security perimeter, because it's a very high security facility.
But there is sound constantly. You didn't address that.
How far is your
I think, do we do Q&A at the end, or do we do Q&A?
Can we let her finish this and then that way we can?
Jobs, hundreds, thousands of construction jobs. Those are obviously part-time or temporary jobs. Once the data center is up and operating, we're looking at about 40 jobs per building. It's a 24-hour operation, so those jobs are in shifts. Cyrus One invests in what we call our scholarship to apprenticeship program. So we've been working with TSTC to put students from local communities through the My Data Center Pathway program, or the electrician path that BlackRock, one of our investors, has invested $10 million with TSTC. To create that program, both are very relevant and applicable to this industry. What I've heard in my years in this industry is that these jobs are new, exciting, and are kind of giving folks in a community new pathways that are interesting and a fun career with a lot of interesting challenges. So we're proud of that apprenticeship, scholarship to apprenticeship pathway. And then tax revenue is a big draw oftentimes for communities. It can be a transformative dollar figure for changing the basic schools, hospitals, and funding county projects. And so those are some of the things I just wanted to clarify. And then talk a little bit about how we invest in communities. So we use the CARE acronym, which is also part of our culture internally. But we'd like to collaborate with communities to solve problems, be that roads or different infrastructure projects that we can do together. Advance the workforce, and so bringing folks into these pathway programs, either in trade schools or junior colleges, to advance the workforce in local communities. R, respecting the environment, and E, engaging in everyday events that make life fun for communities. So, we're invested in the county fair next weekend, and just getting involved slowly but surely as we come into this community. So I wanted to share a little bit about us. Eric is going to talk about the project itself, and then we'll have Q&A. Is that good? Okay. Thanks.
Hey, can you hear me? Great. Again, my name is Erica Shibata. I'm the site acquisition manager for this project. Pretty involved in the boots on the ground of evaluating this project. So kind of to level set, I want to flip this slide. Oh, sorry. We currently have 200 acres that we own off Highway 488. That project has been underway for, I want to say, over a year now. Those 200 acres are planned for 4 glass center buildings. We have already started the grading for this project, so 4 buildings on that site. I wanted to level set with some stuff that Katie said, in that when we are evaluating land, typically we spend 90 to 120 days, sometimes up to 6 months, evaluating environmental impact, sound, noise, and water of our project. We have to go through all of the permitting processes with TCQ, local water conservation districts, if that's needed in that area. So there's quite a bit of work that goes into our projects before we deploy dollars to purchase land. As I said, we'll have 4 buildings, and then we're slated to be operational for our first building. I took my glasses off, I'm sorry. By Q1 of 2027 for the first building. I believe that we are taking our next phase of the project, which is I think another question that people have, is we do have an additional 200 acres on the other side of 488 that we are currently evaluating. At this point, we do not own that property, but we're looking at it for additional building space, and that will be contingent on power, water, and county approval of the project. And then just a quick oversight, again, looking at the numbers of the project. At a minimum, our phase 1, which would be 3 buildings when we initially took this project to the county, is $600 million in investment into this community. I know that we have an abatement in place for phase 1 that includes a pilot, which is a payment in lieu of taxes. For an annual basis, we'll be paying the county $850,000 each year for 10 years. That's a set number, so it wouldn't be based on property valuation, which is why it was negotiated with the county to do a pilot program. We've done them in other counties as well, and most of the county commissioners and judges prefer a pilot over just a straight tax abatement. And then also just a level set of water, and I'm sure people will ask questions, and so I'm happy to answer more when we get to the Q&A. Again, as Katie said, our buildings use 1,100 gallons of water a day per building. That's only for domestic use. That's what we would get our wells permitted for. So well water would only service toilets, sinks, and I think water fountains. Everything else for cooling the system and fire suppression would be trucked in water, so it wouldn't be local, and it wouldn't be coming out of the ground wells that we would be drilling on site. And then the last piece that I think we wanted to point out on the slide is that even though we do have a pilot in place with the county, our project would be paying 100% of the school taxes and the hospital taxes, which is, I think in our calculation, it was over $6 million a year in both county, hospital, and ISD taxes. So it's quite a bit of revenue for the county for our first phase of this project. And our goal is to enter into another agreement with the county for phase 2.
Public safety.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. And just as part of our, discussions with the county, and with Katie being brought on board to do community engagement, again, we really want to stay involved in the community. We did already donate $1.2 million to the county for public safety equipment. That's, I know, $1.2 million, maybe not seems like a lot, but we are concerned about public safety. We want the county and the citizens of this county to be protected. We will continue to work with the county judge and the county commissioners to see what other needs the county has and how we can contribute. We want to be long-term corporate citizens of this county, and we want to be contributing as much as we can to the needs of the people that live here. And then I think we're going to open it up to Q&A. Crew, do you want to? Yeah. I'll just stand here for you.
Hopefully you guys can hear me. So you had a question about the staff, is that right? Because I can answer, but I want to make sure that you actually ask the question that you want, so go ahead.
Well, my question is, you mentioned 60 decibels, 50 to 60, I believe you said.
That's right.
And that's a constant sound, right?
It's like, so if you think about what 60 decibels is, it's like it's this conversation.
You get them to stand up.
Yeah,
When they ask
so,
the
and so I
question.
downloaded an app. called
Stand them
Decibel
up,
Life.
make them stand up.
And so if you're to measure the sound of this room right now, from 60 decibels.
Isn't 60 decibels that closer to like a stadium?
That's
Have
like-
you reached the level of the Freestone generation plant?
I'm sorry.
So will it be louder than the generation?
No, it'll be much quieter than.
Much quieter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, and I'm happy to share directly if you guys are interested, but like, again, you can download this app called Decibel Life, it's free, and you can listen to this. It's around 65 decibels as I'm speaking this microphone right now.
And per our agreement that we made with them, it's 55 decibels at the property.
Correct.
Correct.
And that,
I just want to make that clear, but that, what the agreement we made was 55 decibels at the property line.
correct. And so I'll just level set. So our noise study basically models what our max could be at the property line. So our agreement with the county is 55 decibels, which means at the property line of our boundary, we can't be any more than 55 decibels. So our buildings are set back into the property further, and then we also attenuate sound within our generation yard. So we have projects that are within 300 feet of residents, and they can't hear our facilities.
So I don't believe that at all. I simply don't believe it. Are you saying that any videos that we see online of the noise pollution, those are completely corrupt data centers, and you guys are nothing like them?
No, I can't
No?
speak for the
Okay.
videos that you've
And
seen,
then-
but I would.
No, that's all I wanted was a yes or no.
I would
My next
encourage you.
question is, isn't that sound 24 hours a day? It's not just during business hours. Isn't it 24 hours a day?
The answer is yes, if I want you to know, but I want to provide a little more information if you want to listen. So what's the?
What you've done already, this is wrong. But
No,
you're not
no.
letting us ask questions.
No, go ahead and ask the question if there's more. Like, I want to explain why
I
that
have a
sound.
ton of questions. Another question is, well, you can laugh at me if you
No,
want
no,
to, but
keep
this
going.
is not a funny situation. You're invading our country life here in Freestone County is what you're doing. So we have questions.
You know, we've done some research, y'all. We've been worried about this for a long time. And we went and toured their facility, and we tried to do our homework. We all had various decibel meters. You know, I got educated on what a decibel was. We toured 500,000 square foot buildings in downtown Allen, Texas, with a housing addition far from right across the street. I walked right up to the cooling units, which will be making the noise. Right beside it, while they were running, it was 78 decibels. You walk 50 foot, 100 foot, it drops in the 50s. Outside, it was in the 40s, in the parking lot of their property. We went across the street to the housing addition. There was people walking dogs, jogging. We stopped them and said, hey, how big a problem is this building across this data center? They said, is that what that is? We didn't know what that was. And it was, the street was loud. I mean, it was in the 40s, and it was mainly, there's a street in between them, not a real busy one. I mean, we did some checking on this, y'all. I'm just saying, we did our homework.
So
We're trying
my next
to do the best thing for this
So my
county.
next question is, why wasn't this made a public debate before ground was broken? That's what I want to know.
We had it.
Why is it now?
Anybody that don't want to take the time to keep up with what's going on with your local government.
We all have jobs.
I understand, sir, but we have a website, our duties are posted on the website, they're posted on the courthouse bulletin board. By law,
You guys got the light out.
we have not had one single court that we did not give 3 full business days of posting before we had a court.
You guys light out.
Well, we've got hands raised.
I have a question. Really, my question is more for our county commissioners, and I'd like to know if we have any I appreciate what Katie said. I understand that there are probably good actors and bad actors in the data center business, but what kind of process does our county have for a policy to review large industrial scale projects like this?
But at the time, we don't have a policy like that.
There you go.
Can I speak to that? Would I be allowed to? Are there more questions? Okay. I just brought to share with y'all, put glasses on because I really can't see about it. I brought to share with y'all it's the Hill County Major Industrial Development Review Policy. My name is Lee Beller, sorry. I'll be out of town on the 17th, so I wanted to take the time to come here now. But the purpose of the policy is to establish a consistent process for the review of large-scale industrial developments that may have significant impacts on county infrastructure, transportation systems, water resources, emergency services, public safety, drainage systems, and other county interests. I would respectfully ask the commissioners of Freestone County to review and to adopt a similar policy for our county. Policy for Freestone County, I think, should require complete transparency, so I do appreciate what y'all have said today from Cyrus of all legal entities that are responsible for ownership and operation of all such industrial developments, and set protections for neighboring and potentially affected property owners in the area. A particular concern is the protection of our county's aquifers, grid usage, and noise abatement. And just on a personal level, I would like the commissioners to consider the wishes of your neighbors like myself. I reside on my family's farm that was purchased by George Washington Green in 1883. When I was a little girl, I could lie in my bed at night and I could hear the coyotes howl in the back pasture. It was so quiet and it was so dark. I have loved this piece of property my entire life. And even though my parents chose to raise me in Dallas, I always made it clear that someday I wanted to live here in the home that my great-grandparents built. There are now 2 natural gas compression plants. One is 1.5 miles away, the other is about 3/4 of a mile from my front door. The larger of the 2 is never quiet. It is never silent at my place. The low-level din travels up the upper branch of the Keachai Creek into my home, and I can barely hear the coyotes anymore. So I was not, and I am not, protected from this constant noise. There has never been any noise abatement, and this is nothing compared to the potential that can come from data centers. So I'm just asking that, you consider the fact that we're making really long-term decisions here. That land provides families with generational stability. It may not provide extreme wealth, but the value of generational stability cannot be overstated. Do not trade a lump sum payment for the stability of your grandchildren and their children.
Right.
And if you want a county that your children want to come home to, don't pay over it. This is not something we can undo. So please establish protections for our health, for our land, for today, and for those who will want to live and farm here after us. I ask why the solar farms are going up on grazing property when they could just as easily be in urban areas over parking lots where they could shade cars. We are talking about land that cannot be reclaimed. So I am asking that we have policies in place that will protect our land and protect our citizens. And then if we have people who are honorable and who are good actors who want to be part of our community and not spoil what we appreciate about living in the country, it's great. But we need to have some way to hold them accountable. And there needs to be ways to measure that. So I'm just going to leave this with you guys. This is online. This is the Hill County policy. Even though Hill County's moratorium has been overturned because the companies that were building the data center took them to court, in federal court, and tried to sue them, so they all county commissioners backed off. They still have these policies in place. So anybody who comes into that county, if you're a great company, you shouldn't have any problems with impact studies, water usage studies, noise abatement studies, any of it.
what that is, what we would be putting in place are boxes that we have already checked off with this company. I just want you, I mean.
No, I
like
understand.
said, we were never,
But I think it's also responsible to realize that right now there's a huge push to build these things. Data centers have been around. This is nothing new. This extreme push to expand them is. And it's quite obvious that there is an intention to get these things built before the regulations can catch up. And before state governments, county governments can catch up. If we can slow it down, that gives the Texas legislature a chance to really get a handle on this and view what kind of impact it's going to have over our quality of life.
It's kind of a long question, but this was just published this morning by Michael Quinn Sullivan. And it says, according to Texas grid operators, several large Texas data centers and crypto facilities have failed key reliability tests ahead of the summer peak. It says, in a power grid, supply must demand for electricity to prevent overcapacity or overvoltage. However, data centers are generally designed to disconnect from grids during voltage disturbances, unlike many traditional energy consumers. This prevents damage to data center equipment, but it can lead to an oversupply of power to other consumers, worsening the effects of the voltage disturbance. During a recent test of routine voltage disturbance resistance, the ERC of Texas reported that 4 clusters of large electricity consumers, including data centers, abruptly disconnected from the grid. According to ERCOT, each of these clusters could trigger more than 5,000 megawatts of demand, tripping roughly the load of a large city. Since 23, ERCOT has identified 26 events of data centers and crypto mining facilities abruptly disconnected from the power grid during voltage disturbances. How is Crypto One, or what's the name of it?
Our company's name is Cyrus One.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Cyrus One.
Yeah.
How is Cyrus One
It's an excellent-
different than this?
It's an excellent, Mr. Anderson?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And hopefully everyone here, sorry for the feedback that happened earlier. Mr. Anderson, it's an excellent question, and I think that in the premise of it, there's a different, the reason we're here is we do want to be transparent. I mean, I know that there's a lot of negative data center sentiment, and I personally understand it, because there's different quality of data center construction, and the folks that you cited are the crypto miners who are trying to build, the phrase we use is cheap and cheerful, folks that basically are trying to just make tilt up a quick data center, not think about the sound attenuation that comes at a cost, and think about all the sustainability elements that we do. I do share your view, Mrs. Miller, about water usage. That's why we have a chilled water system. So all of this stuff is much more expensive, but it's the right thing to do. So I don't want to give a 15-minute answer for a question, but what I encourage, I'm more than happy to spend time with you to talk about some of the engineering elements. But what I encourage you to do is the simple thesis of what we're trying to do here is to try to be a little bit transparent and try to help educate as to, okay, well, why is it 24/7 sound? It's because the fans are going, the chillers are going, but if you're 100 feet away from the chillers, you don't hear them. But it is true that they're on 24/7. Similar to answer your question specifically on the folks that simply switch the lights off, those are people who are, I don't want to disparage anyone, but there are people who are not worried about the downstream impact of their actions, whereas we are. So we can talk to you about our battery storage systems, all the ways that we can make sure that we aren't causing a lot of downstream impact, because frankly it's self-serving at some level, because if we cause downstream impact to the grid stability, then frankly we're not going to get any power as an industry. So it's just, not only is it the right thing to do, it's also good business. But more than happy to get into the details of how that mechanically works, but there is a difference between the crypto miners that build kind of cheap and cheerful versus what investments we make.
My question, is there going to be long-term verification for that water usage, and how often does that have to be changed out?
Yes.
I was going to say, yeah, so our water wells are metered at like approved by CCQ. We voluntarily meter all of our water wells so they can be checked, and then we typically we will report those numbers to the county, and then we have to have those numbers available to CCQ to respond and ask questions. So all of our water wells are voluntarily metered, and that information is public.
What is your capacity of the water well?
I didn't keep write that down. I don't remember the capacity of the water well, but I can get that for you.
You know the
there were existing wells on the property.
Correct.
They've already applied for their permits and they've been granted to them to utilize those two existing wells.
And just for the other members of the commission, I mean, I totally believe your transparency, but I'm also just something to consider that Cyrus One has been bought out by KRR. It's kind of the king of the leveraged buyout. I mean, this is what they, we're doing. So that's my other concern long term. We need to think about what happens if the AI bubble becomes similar to the .com bubble of the early 1990s. I mean, these are just, I just want to make sure this is something that we've all thought about and that everybody's being transparent about, because just, you were owned by somebody else. And what's the good neighbor policy or the same standard?
Yeah, so just so you know, before we were taken private by KKR and BlackRock, we had our sustainability policies. Folks like myself, my wonderful colleagues here, we choose to work here not based on the fact that it's owned by an export, it used to be public, will be public again. You have to have long-term enduring values, otherwise you're not going to get high quality people who actually do have values and want to work at the place. So the ownership aside, that's one thing. The other thing on the water side, it used to be the way that we used to cool these data centers is it was evaporative cooling. So we used to take water and evaporate it into the air. So and that's the water heavy use. The reason we all pivoted, or the better providers have pivoted to the closed water system, is because yes, it admittedly is more expensive, but fundamentally it doesn't use a tremendous amount of water, and it's the right thing to do. So I'm not pretending that there aren't data centers that consume a huge amount of power, not ours.
Oh, okay. These two, I've been asking for a long time to talk to.
Okay, so I'd like to know, I have not seen a publicly available noise report study. Maybe it is, but I haven't seen it. What you haven't discussed was the low-level frequency noise that the animals hear, which can travel up to a mile. It is not just where the data center is. So tell me what your noise model is showing the impact will be and how you plan to mitigate that. Also, you have blowdown time whenever you clean out your systems. Where is that going to go? I'm not worried and concerned at all because I know I know you're trucking the water in. I know the closed loop system very well. What are you going to do with the water afterwards? My third question is, the land heats up. There's no way to avoid the ground temperature rising within, a half a mile radius of the data centers, particularly when you get to 6, which is what you're eventually going to have. Tell me how you plan to mitigate those things.
You know, one of the questions.
And the heat into the atmosphere, besides after cooling, how much more heat is being dissipated into the atmosphere, and is it going to affect our rain pattern?
So I think these are two sides of the same coin, which is about what do we do with the heat, right? And so we have systems in place to be able to reutilize that heat because that heat is energy, and so we don't want to waste energy for our sustainability goals, for the fact that we want to use less electricity generally. So we don't want to heat servers and then have the servers, just like heat ambient air. So that's the reason we use a cool water system, the closed loop system, because all the water has a specific heat that absorbs heat better than air and the ground. And so that's why we're using liquid to be the medium by which that excess heat is absorbed. And it takes a long time for that heat to dissipate, which is why we run through the cool system. So that's similar to the crypto miners building cheap and cheerful. The whole premise of building these closed loop systems is that you have a higher heat efficiency or a higher energy efficiency. So we won't have that same impact. Other people may, ours won't. I know you had 3 questions. One was about sound for animals. The second, I forgot.
Low frequency.
So low frequency sound. The third was heating the ground, but that's not a concern for our design. There's a second question.
The blowdown.
The blowdown. I can answer that.
So a couple of things. So we appreciate the county judge commissioners inviting us here. Typically, we would have our EHS representative with us that can talk on some of the environmental studies. I will say that we are going to have a website, and the website will have, like, the noise modeling will be on there, so you'll be able to go and see what we actually model for noise. We will be addressing the frequency, the low frequency as well. I can't speak on it because I'm not an environmental engineer, and I don't know enough about it to speak on it. But I do know that
I am, that's right.
Yeah, but I believe me, Kyle would probably love to sit down with you and have coffee with you, because he's really versed in it, and it's something that we're getting asked more often. So we wanted to topics are on the website, so we can answer those questions.
I don't know that we have a presentation at the hearing on the 17th, but I'm sure that he or Laura Cottrell or our EHS managers can talk to you about it.
I'm sorry?
I thought you all about transparency.
We absolutely are. We're happy to post that again on our website. I also have business cards, and I'm happy to schedule one off if somebody wants to meet with us and talk about specifics. I just can't answer the question about the low frequency. I personally can't answer that question.
How often are those devices calibrated so that we know that the information that will be on the website is accurate and true?
So we post, the website is actually refreshed. So of the,
How often are they calibrated so that you know they are accurate?
I'm sorry, which pieces? Sounders. Oh, we do a noise modeling on the front end of the project, and then we're meeting that standard.
So every time, right before doing the monthly testing, that's what we would kind of calibrate, just to make sure that the sound is actually the sound.
Internally or third party?
Yes.
Third party.
Yes.
Who is the third party?
Trinity Consultants. Trinity Consultants is our sound.
Party? Who hires the third party?
Who hires them?
Yeah, you guys.
Yes.
Of course. Because that would be easy to give you whatever kind of report back that fits your needs for it. So I do have a couple questions. At the beginning, you said that you guys would be bringing in the water, so we're not taking any local water resources, and then you're going to be drilling wells, all that good stuff. Where's the water coming from the very get-go to bring it in? Where are you getting that from?
So we have to purchase water rights from aquifers that have water rights available. So we have to go out, we have a team that goes out and investigates where there's water available for us to purchase. It'll be somewhere from the state of Texas likely. And we purchase those water rights, we truck that water in to fill the closed system, and then fire suppression.
You didn't answer the question. Where?
Somewhere in Texas.
Yeah, somewhere in Texas.
Texas residents are still going to be affected by it. It's just not going to be our county directly that's going to be affected right off the get-go.
Well,
Yeah.
else's children. When we
Yeah.
purchase the water rights, it has to be somewhere where there's a surplus of water. They sell it to us because they have surplus of water.
How do you know that there's a surplus of water, though? I mean, nobody can predict the future, so how do we know that we're not, as a society, as human beings, going to need that water in the future, but instead we're putting it into a data center that's not needed for our society, it's not needed for human beings, it's only needed to make people's pockets richer, to be honest. Let's get to the bottom line of it here. Also, why was the first part of this already approved, but now we're coming in to say that we can stop the second phase of this? Like, from our commissioner standpoint, where were your guys' thoughts on this, and how do you guys see the benefits of this coming to our community? Because that's what this community truly doesn't understand is, how is this going to bring any benefits to our community?
Okay, so let me answer her question before we take any more. This has to start making people walk up one at a time because there's everybody just put their hands up. So what you're saying is if it's 40,000 gallons to fill one of these closed loop systems, that's the same as a large swimming pool. So I have a right to go put a pool in my backyard that only a few will enjoy, and I can get that 40,000 gallons. And you're saying it's wrong if you use
You're telling
40,000
me that a data
gallons.
center is taking 40,000 gallons of water, that's the same amount as a home pool? These data centers are using that less amount of water? That doesn't make sense. That's not matching up with what you guys are originally
If
saying.
I'm wrong, then volume, you're just right, it's 40,000 gallons.
And this, I totally understand where you might be, as a listener, again, because it seems like too low a number, it feels like maybe we're sandbagging. We're trying to be transparent, we're trying, like, I would encourage you to, if you want to see the data, so that we can maybe put videos online, like, there's some mechanism for us to give you the confidence that we're not just, making these numbers up, but I assure you, like, the technology is a little bit hard to explain, and I don't want to bore everyone for, 15-minute answer, but the true answer is, with these closed loop systems, it is only, it's not even consuming. The amount of water that's circulating within that system is that amount of water. It's shockingly low.
But you have to refill it.
No, we
It doesn't evaporate, so because it's closed, it's enclosed pipes.
But there's still some loss. There is still some loss. It might be small, but there is still some loss.
It's like measured in like 1% for every
That doesn't
exit.
matter. That contradicts what you just said.
what you guys are telling us by any means. So I'm asking our board, our commissioners, our city officials, how are you guys confident in this? Where are you guys seeing the benefits from this, and how is this truly going to benefit our community? Because we don't see it, other than it's going to your guys' pockets.
Okay, so how are we confident that it's going to benefit?
You never answer atmospheric heat release and effect on the rainfall. As the studies go down, how much more heat is being dissipated into the air?
So I don't want to misspeak here because I don't, like, you're right that I didn't say that I was saying that there's minimum, or I said there's none, but I just said there's
But
minimum.
your credibility comes into question now because you said one thing whenever there is some loss. So we should question everything else that is said.
But to answer your question, we'll have to come back to sir because I don't know the exact answer as to the atmosphere, but I believe it's de minimis, but I don't want to misspeak here by so we'll take that note to call for sure.
Let them build it, and then they'll tell you what they need.
Yeah, beyond answer her question about the confidence, where the confidence comes, because I know that it's counting.
No, I mean, I would just like to poll the public, is there a perfect business, a perfect tax base that can come to this county? Where was the, I mean, what do y'all think is in a data center that's not already in the existing power plant that's creating power?
The power plant has not working.
It has what?
The power plant's been off since I've been here. I'm not a long-time resident, I've been here since 2018 when I was in the original chambers. That power plant's been off ever since I've been
Okay, it's a
here.
different power plant.
And then it got turned on as soon as y'all started clearing trees, because that's when it supplied this power plant. And I can hear that, I can hear the power plant right now because you're trying to test it, you're trying to see if it's working. And I can hear it, and I live on Richland Chambers. So I know I'm gonna be able to hear the data center. And I know it's a sound thing and everything like that, but my place is, there's no confidence from y'all saying that it's not gonna hurt the environment. It's already hurting the environment. It's already, if you go down 488, which I go down all the time, I'm missing the trees because you couldn't see the power plant, now you can. So I'm missing that. I don't see how many deers I've seen, you know, going up and down and getting killed. And then I feel for the poor cows that are right across from that. And I understand that that land's been sold as well, because we can't have cows go to the south, this power plant is going to do the low decibels. So we're losing all of our community, the farm, everything like that. The only thing that's going to come up is going to be money into the pockets. But we're not going to see that, because if y'all get money now, I'm not seeing a new Fairfield building, Fairfield High School going. I don't see any new construction for that. I don't see new construction for any of the roads. I only see trucks going up and down with all kinds of dirt and everything like that. And I understand it's the way of the future, and it's all because for AI, but you're not helping anybody. And then if y'all were transparent, you would have more higher ups, not just yes men. I know y'all been working for as long as you have. I know. I mean, I came from a big company too. What y'all telling me is nothing that I haven't heard from my own company. But if you want to be transparent, you should have had an engineer guy here. And then we're told on the 17th, you don't know who's going to be here, that y'all don't even have a presentation for that. Y'all were just called on the last minute because we made such a big old fuss from the last thing. So now you got these people here just trying to placate us, but you don't have anybody with real answers. So my thing is, I want to hear y'all confident, which we haven't heard yet, and I want to hear more transparency, which we haven't heard yet. So, and if you're not going to have any of y'all that know some legit answers on the 17th about being bought out, about what's actually going to happen with the low frequency, who pays for the third party reports, have reports. You didn't even give us any reports. You gave us PowerPoint. You didn't give us any reports of any kind of studies that you've done at all. So to me, this is still not transparency.
Okay, now before I take any more questions, I want to correct you on something. The power plant hadn't been shut down for months and just started back up.
It had been, no sir, it has not been on. It has not been working since I've been here since 2018.
There's two power plants out there. One was just completed, so they've been building a second, the Pinto power plant they call it. The whole time the Pinto power plant was operating, the old power plant was.
Not in the capacity, no, I'll give you that. But it has not been a power plant.
sound, light, and I understand you're fixing well, and, look for the thing that we use the power plant, to take out power plant. We hired a lot of employees from the local area, so we didn't have to leave out. Would you expand, look at more, kind of possible training, locals that want to get involved in data and benefit that would be, so our kids will have to go somewhere else. Right now, the oil and gas industry is about the only thing around for long-term employment. I would like to know how you're going to train and encourage these students that are on schools to become involved in your operation.
Thank you for that question. So there's two different answers. I'll try to speak a little louder, hopefully you can hear me. So the question, if anyone could not hear it, is how will we train the folks that are going to be working in the data center? And I want to provide a more full answer than just simply folks who are going to be working in the data center. It's also in the building of the data center. So what we've done is we want to create apprenticeship programs for people to work in trades, such that there's a lot of different unique trades that in the process of building a data center, because they're engineeringly more sophisticated buildings. You need plumbing, you need engineers that can understand plumbing, you need HVAC, electrical engineers, structural engineers. So in order to be able to work through the actual construction of the data center, we do apprenticeship programs. That way we know that these are high quality built facilities. So that's on the construction side. And on the operations side, we do these job fairs, and you can go to other counties where we've already done that. We'll do the same exact thing here. We'll do this. We'll we'll get our partners that will be in the facility to come and basically, our whole objective is, because these are 24/7 facilities, we need people in the community, people, right? We can't have someone driving 2 hours in to service these facilities. So we really need that there's a really robust group of folks that can be in those facilities, and we want to make sure those folks are trained. So that's why we do those job fairs.
So if we work with the local school, I'm sorry, I'm kind of deaf. I hear you, but we work with the local schools to put some sort of training in place to pre-train these in computers, and data, and stuff, so they can move on into your training.
Yeah, I'll take that and talk a little bit more about the training. I got to work with Texas State Technical College last year. We started in 23, finished in 24, creating a program we're calling the My Data Center Pathway Program in Mechanical Electrical Information Technology. And Cyrus One is leveraging that to put students through. It's a 235-hour course load, so it's accessible to anyone. It's only $5,000, and it gives participants the training that they need to work inside the data center or in the support functions around it. So again, 24/7 operation, mission critical facility. So it's not just the operators inside the data center, but it's the cooling, the electrical, the plumbing, all that wraps around the data center, plus the security around the data center. And then you start to go out beyond the secure perimeter, and you're looking at all kinds of city services that are required, anything from catering to pest control to housekeeping. So it starts to have a ripple effect in the community. Of course, there's the hotels, the restaurants, the gas stations, the retailers. So they say, like, the most conservative estimates say for every one job inside the data center, there are typically at least 4 created in the community. So the jobs are far beyond someone sitting there making sure that the operations are running.
Do you go into the school and get them started, not just technical colleges?
Yeah, so I've actually been talking to Joe Bragg.
Encourage them.
I've been talking to your the Fairfield superintendent about wanting, I met him at the Calpine ribbon cutting ceremony in Montesoca, and he said, how could Fairfield ISD students get involved here, and I said, does your CTE program have a mechanical and industrial systems maintenance? He said, no, so we've gifted $50,000 to Fairfield High School as part of, like, when they build a new facility to, and that's just a down payment, I know it's gonna take more than that to get all of the equipment and to get the instructors, but that CTE track alone would equip someone to go into that industrial maintenance, into those industrial maintenance roles, and it might not be for Cypress One, it might be for one of the equipment providers that we lean on.
But you said when you first started your presentation that there's only going to be 40 employees.
So 40 employees for the data center operation. What I just described is kind of a ripple effect.
Right.
So these are 40 people working around the clock
That's a potential.
to operate the data center itself.
When you say 40 around the clock, is that 40 people or is that 43 days?
It's
3
40
hours?
people.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're pretty fortunate.
So it doesn't create a huge, burden on schools and city services, but there is a ripple effect that I think is worth noting.
And that's even if it's coming from the high school. They're hiring, they're outsourcing it. It's gonna be outsourced. The high school kids are coming in to do those jobs. I mean,
We hire for the local
say that
community.
we want it to be that way, absolutely, but the reality is, if there's only gonna be 40 jobs there, those jobs are gonna be filled very quickly, and there's not gonna be the opportunity to get those next generations, or our kids, his kids won't be able to have those jobs,
I disagree respectfully. This industry is growing by leaps and bounds, and we are eager to have as many local community members involved as we can. That's why we created this scholarship apprenticeship program.
It's 40 per building.
Per building, that's right.
Okay, can we back up just a little bit?
Sure.
I don't know if it's your name, because you're not my commissioner. I
Yes,
don't know
ma'am.
if he's my-
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Okay.
When, to do your due diligence, when did y'all go to Allen?
Oh, I don't remember when we went. I don't know what month it was.
Okay, I've had 2 people that attended with you that told me y'all went, papers were signed in December, y'all went February, March. That's after the fact.
We did tour after the fact, on the noise and on that. But we got it right. We wanted to satisfy ourselves.
Where's the benefit you guys are seeing? We usually don't see that. What made you guys sign up first place?
We have to look at what are we comparing this to. We're gonna have to pick our battles. Because we just wanna call THU back up out of bankruptcy and get Lumina back in here and strip mine 20,000 acres again. You think that didn't disrupt wildlife and take a ton of groundwater because if there were wells down just to pump the water off of the top of the coast. And just discharge the top 300 foot of water out.
That's not fair, Judge. That's not fair at all. What's
fair? I don't know what's in a data center that's not already in the existing power plant.
We don't need to take away our pastures and our farmland just to satisfy some other need. Our county is doing just fine. We don't need to have more and more and more money. I like to go sit outside at nighttime where it's silent. If I want to go back up to Dallas to live and hear the noise, I'll go there. Put the data centers back up in Dallas. Put them in Austin.
That would be
Leave us alone with that. That's all I'm saying. But that just wasn't fair.
I don't make that decision.
Because that's not doom and gloom. I'm not looking for doom and gloom. My question that I'd like to ask the 5 of you is, what is the accountability on these 3 people here that have made some professions and some promises to us today? What is the accountability? What teeth do you have that if you don't follow through with the 40 jobs that come from people that live here, not come from somewhere else and buy a house here? Where is that accountability on her on that? Where's the accountability on him with, I'll show you in person what the heat factor is that changes. I can listen to the weather at nighttime, out of Dallas-Fort Worth, and Dallas-Fort Worth in the summertime will be 5 degrees hotter at nighttime than down here where I'm sitting at my house. So that is going to change that area on us. It's going to change it. I have a friend who lives on the other side of 84 going out the other direction. She's getting completely surrounded by a solar farm. All the wildlife is leaving now because everything's being torn out. Traffic is everywhere. Trucks are driving everywhere. QTEC, I think that's right. She tried to call them because of the things that the guys are doing. Not watering, they're not cleaning the road, they're driving over neighbors' animals. They told her, it's not our problem, deal with it. They just told her that the other day on the phone. They don't care, they're not going to come down and investigate. Everything that's happening to us around here is changing our rural way of life, and I don't like that. And the other thing that bothers me is Congress is currently drawing new legislation right now to hurry and take away states' rights. That's what they're pushing through right now. So why, if these data centers are so great, if they are, why are they pushing to stop states from being able to have any teeth for 3 more years? Why is Governor Abbott, although I did hear this is a blessing, but I already actually just came out with it within the hour, but he has signed some legislation today to hold these people accountable. And I don't mean blasphemy. I'm not trying to disrespect you, but he is. But the one thing he did not do is he did not give any accountability teeth back to the counties. And we need that. We need that. We need to hold it. We need to stop this legislation. They're calling it the Great American Artificial Intelligence Act. Is what they're calling it. It's written by a congressman in California and a congresswoman in Massachusetts. They tried it 2 other times already. We've defeated them twice in trying to take away states' rights. But now it's coming back again, but they're hiding it in this bill, 269-page bill. They're hiding it, they're trying to take it away. Why is it that Greg Sachs of Sachs Capital Group and Mark Andreessen of Capital Venture and Sam Altman with OpenAI and Dario Amandai of Anthropic and Dennis Onsavas with Google, why are they getting millions and millions and millions of dollars to these congressmen and senators to fight and take away our states' rights so that we can't have this, where we have to stand here today way after the fact of them coming and invading us. And I'm not saying this disrespectfully to you three. I appreciate you here today. But I don't like that this started after everything got done. I don't like that. And so answer my question. I'm sorry to go so long. Answer my question. What teeth did you guys put into your agreements with them that is in writing that we can hold them accountable on? What is there?
It's the noise at 55 decibels at the property.
But what's the teeth? What penalties will they have?
They lose, okay, let's get on something. They lose their abatement. Any violation of the abatement contract, then they lose that.
And we need to get back, and she told some numbers up there on what they're paying for us. That's just for the facility. Y'all want to know how it's going to benefit Freestone County, okay? Once y'all's tenants come in there, that's where the valuation comes in.
Give it the mic.
Huh?
You can't hear you, give it the mic.
That's where the valuation comes in, is, y'all correct me.
No, you're correct.
About $2 billion per building. That's $8 billion worth of taxable valuation. Our county's at 3.8 right now. Okay? That's a major impact on everybody here. And if some of y'all, the ones that hung around for our meeting last week, we've got an issue in this county. We budgeted $500,000 for prisoners outside because of overcrowding. We've already surpassed that. We're set to spend over $1 million this year. We had some contingency, but we're strapped. We're fixing to have to build a jail. It probably should have been done before, but we're addressing it. this is gonna help relieve the burden of the taxpayers, because you know what jails cost? It costs 40. Let y'all speak. Let me speak. Let me speak.
You are not supposed to be.
Pardon me? Well, y'all let me, we're showing y'all respect. Let me finish my story.
Look, we come in here for question and answers, we let you ask questions, we let you talk.
I'm trying to tell you where we're at.
He's the one that upset.
What? No, I'm just not, I want to speak.
It's all.
We're trying to talk, and we got two people trying to talk to me. That's what I'm talking about.
Sir?
Just say it's all about money. It's not about anything environmental or anything else for us. It's about money.
So you do realize that we don't have to even consider any type of abatement, and it does not stop what these people want to do. When you have a willing seller and a willing buyer, and that buyer wants to put in a business on that property, all they have, the regulations that they have to follow, or the TCEQ and the EPA, that's their state and federal regulations that they have to follow. There are no laws in place that allow us to stop, do a moratorium, or anything like that. Yes, we can set up these guidelines within our county, but then you have to ask yourself, how enforceable are they? A lot of people call say, why don't y'all create an ordinance? The city can create an ordinance, the county cannot create an ordinance. We are not allowed that by the legislature. So again, when we're looking at something, I mean, it's just common sense, and maybe my head is not just full of everything that y'all have been reading on social media. But when I look at these projects, I have to say, what is different about this project than one that's been here for the last 20, 30 years? There's a power plant out there that does use evaporative cooling. They do have cooling towers. They do pump millions of gallons of water from Richland Chambers Lake to that plant to cool the turbines to make electricity, which goes into the grid, which we all get to enjoy. Again, you got to think about it. This company that's talking about coming in and setting up this data center, there's nothing in that data center that's not already in the plant right beside it. You have to wear earplugs when you go into the plant environment. You don't have to wear earplugs at the data center environment, because I've been in both. So when you're asking me what, I'm just looking at it from a common sense stance. We're not reinventing the wheel here. The people are not, they're not using millions of gallons of water out of our aquifer a day. 40,000 gallons of water per cooling unit, per closed loop system. We've got that in writing, that's what we're holding them to. But again, if we don't do any type of abatement, we don't have a seat at the table. They never have to stop in this courthouse. They never have to come say hi to us. They never have to do anything. They can act like Commissioner's Court is not even here. By giving them an abatement, we can create a contract that allows us to put stuff in there. And that contract was created, we did put in the noise, the water usage, and the number of jobs, and minimum of 40 jobs per building, and that's with a minimum of $2.2 million per year for those 40 jobs. Yes, ma'am.
Are there other sites you were working on within the surrounding area, Limestone, Leon, Freestone County?
We have, right now, we have active projects in Freestone, Bosque County, Medina County. We have several in the DFW region that are underway as well.
Are you attached to that solar farm out there on Highway 8?
We are not attached to any solar farm, I think, at any of our facilities.
You're not?
No, ma'am.
Okay. You talked about trucking water in. Where did you say you're trucking it from?
So we have to buy water rights from a surplus of water conservation district. We have not signed a contract, but once we do sign that contract, then it'll be public on our microsite page of where that water is coming from.
And so you won't know where that water is coming from, whether it's in the surrounding counties or on coast or down to wherever.
We will know. We just haven't signed the contract to say this is where we're going to be getting it from.
We don't know now.
We don't know at this point, but we will know shortly once we sign it. Yeah, and then once we can't. Some stuff is just not. It's not public knowledge yet. So as soon as we sign that agreement with the utility district of whatever conservation district that is, then that will go on the website and be updated of who we're getting our water from.
All right, and
So-
Work degree.
4 buildings for phase 1 is what we have master planned for.
Okay, just 4 buildings.
For the first phase, yes, ma'am.
On that's gonna encompass the whole 200 acres.
I'm sorry? Yes, 4 buildings, yes,
And
ma'am.
then you've got 200 adjacent across the road at a future date. That too will have presumably 4.
Correct, yeah, we're looking at what we can fit on that right now, but 4 was a good,
So you, just a few moments ago, you said something about 40,000 gallons of water. Where does that number equate to the 1,100 per building?
so the 40 gallons is what, I believe that was the size of the cooling tank, is that, somebody said that, I didn't say that number, but, so that'll be the size of the tank that's full on site for cooling into the fire suppression, they're separate tanks.
First fill and then
Correct.
from there.
Correct.
And
The-
that will
the-
last how long?
Well, the fire suppression tanks, we're hoping we don't have to deploy them without water. That would only be deployed if there was an emergency situation on site, so that 40 gallons will stay
So
there.
that's also for potential firefighting.
Right, yeah, correct. And the 1,100 gallons of water a day is for the building's operations. It's equivalent to 2 households with 4 people living inside of it. Again, it's only for the employees inside of the building, for toilets, water fountains, and sinks.
And that's for during the construction phase, presumably.
That'll be in operations.
All right, and then, so that brings us to the jobs.
Yes, ma'am.
And you talked about 40 jobs per building
Yes, ma'am.
will be on the table.
Yes, ma'am.
And what types of jobs are these going to be? I saw on the security and janitorial service.
No, it'll be, we have to have electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, she's more on the workforce piece.
I mean, you nailed it. And there are, professional engineers, professional jobs, and there are jobs that don't require a professional degree. So you do have your engineers, and you have your cybersecurity, you've got your technical jobs, then you've also got maintenance jobs to maintain that cooling and plumbing and electrical systems. So maintenance workers, electrical workers, and then you get into security, landscape, all kinds of jobs.
So the lower level stuff is going to go.
It's a mix.
High tax is going to be stormed.
No, we're hoping not.
Yeah, hopefully not. I mean, if there are qualified people to fill them, local is best.
Most of them are retired. All right, and one last question, and I'll let somebody else have the floor. Did you guys get any tax breaks, incentives, abatements for the honor of coming in here and doing this here?
We have signed a tax agreement with the county for the first phase.
And what's the first phase?
The 4 buildings.
Like I just said, the reason we signed the law.
The first 200 acres.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I think on the slide we had 5.8 million. How much would we, is our tax code?
We're putting 600K into the community. 600 million. And the revenue from the 100% hospital and is over $5 million.
So it's not like we're not paying taxes. The reason we signed the payments for the county, for us to have engagement with the county, so abatement tends to be like a charged word, but we're not trying to avoid taxes. That's why we're actually trying to highlight how much we're paying taxes. And I just wanted to make sure that this quote, because I had stepped in before, it's $5 million a year per building. Yeah, so that's speaking to the point of how much tax revenue is going to be generated out of our contribution alone. That's pretty meaningful. And then when we get our tenants, those tenants, like that's where the real value comes in.
Do you have any idea who those tenants might be?
These are the tech giants of America.
Yeah, the Metas, the Amazons, the cryptos, and the
No, not crypto. Like, so we try to distance ourselves. There's a question about our ownership, and the reason we care about our customers, and again, we're not trying to disparage anyone, but crypto miners tend to be just trying to make a quick dollar, whereas you look at what all these tech giants are doing because they want to actually be long-term businesses. They have different standards, and we want to hear about that standards because it tends to be the best for us. I know you've been waiting quite a while. This is the other question.
I'm not sure this falls under question, but I have a few things I'd like to address because I've lived here. I'm going to come up here because I want to talk where they can. Sure, okay. My name is Cindy Vaughn, and I live in a rural area near Dew. And my husband and I live there on 62 little acres. That's nothing. Okay, I understand that. I'm an artist. I'm retired. I'm an artist. We don't have a truck, y'all. I drive a Subaru. Okay? That's going to put me in a category for a bunch of you people. I am not a tree-hugging, PETA card-carrying person. I'm far from that. I'm very conservative, and I have a lot of concerns about this. But I'm going to tell you something that disturbs me. Okay? Just in general. I just want y'all to think this through. The first time I attended a commissioner meeting was last February. Not this year, last year. I came because on social media, there was a giant going on saying, PepsiCo is going to come to do, and we're going to give y'all some money, and we're going to rename your town Hard Do, and we're going to put a giant can out on the freeway so people will stop there and look and see what's going on. And I was like, well, who's going to give you permission to do that? Do doesn't have a mayor. We don't have a city council. We don't have any kind of government in Do. It's a community, okay? We don't have a city that we pay bills to or anything. We're part of the county. We're not part of any city, okay? So the only thing I could think of to do, I talked to some of my friends and acquaintances that live in Do, and they were like, oh, heck no, we don't want that going on. So I came to the commissioner, right after the I said, guys, could this happen? Are y'all going to let them come and pay some money? And by the way, where would that money go? Because who can spend it and do? There's no entity to spend it. Okay, so I was kind of panicked. And they allowed me to come and put my name on the list where I could talk, because you can't just always go talk about stuff. Okay, so I got on the list and I could talk about it. And they said, hey, don't worry. We're not going to do that. So guess what? I was calm. I went back and sat down. I went back and sat down, and this was the weirdest thing. It just so happened, because I sat down in that meeting, I just thought, I wonder what else goes on here. I don't know. Okay? While I was sitting there, some people came in and they were requesting a tax abatement. Well, first of all, I thought a tax abatement meant they didn't have to pay the taxes. I mean, that's what I thought. Oh, they don't get to pay taxes, but I have to? What is going on here? Okay, so that was upsetting. But what became more and more upsetting as this went on was that they were building a solar battery system, and the address that they gave was my address. That's where it was going to be built. That was pretty confusing for a few minutes until, let's see, Mr. Lane at the time was my commissioner, because Judge Grant was in his position then. So I was looking at him going, hey, that's where I live. How can this be happening? And I don't know. And he said, wait, it's across the street, from where you live. Well, does that make me feel better? No. Okay? I don't know what a battery system is, but I figured I better start finding out. So the man that was there, an executive, he gave some papers out about what that was, and they had a recess, and I went out and talked to him. Judge Grant said, hey, go ask him anything you want to ask him. Now's the time. So I went and asked him a bunch of questions, and guess what he said? He said all the kind of things that they're saying. It's like, this is really safe. There's no problem. Don't worry. It doesn't have an environment. And I was like, you know what? You work there, and I know you believe in that with all your heart. You wouldn't be here today. And so it's your job to tell me that, but I'm a little suspicious. Okay? So I am a little suspicious. I just want to know what's going on. So I asked him as many questions as I could think of, but I wasn't very educated, so they weren't necessarily good questions. Huh? I didn't know. Okay, so then what I found out was, had I been coming to these commissioner meetings or looking at the agendas that are posted and required to be posted, these people didn't just come that day and ask. This had been going on for probably a year prior. This had been on the agenda. They had already permitted everything, not through our county. There are no permits required for our county. It was state and federal things that they had to do to be able to put this system there. And so they don't have any control over that. Well, more questions. The guy that leased them the land, that's his land. He can sell that land, he can lease that land, just like if any of you had property. You can sell it or lease it to whoever you wish. or any individual, and says, I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars, I'd like to purchase your land. If you choose not to, great. If you want to sell it, do you want these guys to be able to tell you, oh no, you can't sell it to them. You can only sell it to, we'll agree to let you sell it to. I don't think any of you want that. Do you want regulations that are going to say, you can't sell your land unless we approve it?
Actually, yes.
Okay. I don't want any okay. If you want that, you need to go live in Dallas with an HOA who's going to tell you you can have 2 trees. You must have 2 trees in your yard. You must mow your grass. You must do this. You must do that. I know this is not a common situation. We don't have an HOA, but these guys aren't the people who they can't restrict that. Just like the lady with Hill County was talking about Hill County, they tried, they got sued. They were going to get sued, so they backed off and they did something a little less. And I really think the little less is great. I mean, it's better than not having anything. But what I'm trying to tell you is the very thing that is getting most people excited, and you're finding this on social media, the social media that's powered by the data centers that you're fighting against, okay? Everybody here uses some sort of information that these data centers are coming to life. I don't want the data center either. I don't live here because I'm sorry, I really don't want it in my backyard, but it isn't at this moment. And so I'm happy about that. But we have batteries, which are much more dangerous than a data center, okay? That's scary. But I can't stop that. It's done. The man sold his property. It was his right to do so. Somebody sold in that property. It was their right to do so.
Evidence remains.
And I understand that it affects everybody. But you don't want your neighbor, if your neighbor sells that property, you can't control that, and neither can they.
You've had 5 minutes.
Okay. You know, a couple other people had more time as well. Okay. I know my opinion isn't necessarily popular, but be careful what you wish for. Because you don't want so many regulations that you can't control your own.
You don't want any regulations at all.
No, I do give her some, but I don't think that they can't stop it. They can only put some regulations.
I just feel like earlier you stood up to answer what 5 people have asked and everybody told you to shut up.
I was just trying to.
No, so my question to you is, can you take a few minutes and help us understand, if you all are county elected officials and you make these decisions, then when they dazzle us with, we're going to give millions of dollars to your local community, I'd like to know what we're getting out of it. I'm assuming it's that tax money. I understand if the sheriff's department needs a jail, but I'd like to know what's being done for my family who lives in this community and wants to stay in this community, if that makes sense. But I'm not going to tell you to sit down and shut up because I need to know.
Well, jail is one of our big issues. Our plans for this to lower taxes. I mean, that's goal 1 for me, is to fight to lower taxes. And still provide quality services and try to improve infrastructure. Lloyd, will you help me?
Yeah, I think the main thing to remember is each year our tax base, it depreciates. People have, it's owned by somebody, not one of their companies. But there's depreciation. So it's kind of a vicious cycle that once those assets depreciate, we kind of count on something coming back in the next year to build that tax base up. And so you might have noticed in the last year that we've had 2 pretty good sized pipelines that's come through the county. Okay, that helps a lot. Okay, that stuff that, you know, it happens, it gets covered up, it's kind of outside out of mind, and people don't realize that just took the place of a lot of depreciation. My goal would be to keep this county as rural as it is right now for as long as possible. But when you look at trying to fill in the gaps for that depreciation over time, you look at certain companies that want to come to your county. We can compare with, let's just say it's a big industrial type job. Maybe it's a chicken processing plant that needs 500 employees. So now what we've done is we've just brought in 500 employees that may or may not have wives and children, so we can live in a 1,500 people into the county. Okay? At that point in time, you don't see a lot of extra rentals or anything like that right now. If those are low-paid jobs, typically what happens is you start putting a larger strain on your emergency services, emergency response. It affects the classrooms in the schools, from kindergarten all the way up. You have developers that buy that pretty piece of land that you don't want to see a big company destroy, but it's just as bad as they get involved, busted up in 1 acre tracts, and overfinanced for people that don't have a Social Security number. It happens. You got to pick your battle. Like I say, there's clean money and there's dirty money. I'm not saying that I don't think there's anything that's perfect. We've got 2 plants that operate in the Fairfield Industrial Park over here. One of them makes asphalt emulsion, one of them makes a chemical that causes lumber to be fire retardant. Nobody can guarantee that 10 years from now, somebody that works in one of those plants is not going to have some health effects from working there. And it was never guaranteed to anybody that worked at the big brown power plant either. So again, I'm trying to figure out what is it, why can't we see that, I mean, this is something, to me, it's a large tax base increase that can happen whether we allow it or not. Again, we don't have the authority to say no to them. But to do business with them, we do have a seat at the table. So again, I'm not picking this as my #1 pick, but they're here. You know, we didn't invite them, but they're here.
And I want to go back to the economics of things. Our evaluation is 3.8 billion. By law, okay, things go up. I mean, since cost of everything's went up, our operating cost. It's been a struggle. Well, by law, we can only go up 3.5%. 3.5% of 33.5 cents is 1 penny. 1 penny is all by law we can go up. That means that all we can go up legally when we work a budget, if we need more money to cover, like the jail, that's $380,000 is all we get out of that penny by law, without going to the voters to raise taxes. So we're sitting here, I mean, we're trying to manage this situation, y'all, the best we can. I mean, Freestone County means a lot to all of us. I mean, we've got generations here. We're trying to protect things for our kids, our grandkids. We've been dealing with this for 50 years. People older than me will vouch for this. It started with Big Brown. They come in here, they took people's family lands, changed the identity. You couldn't find Grandma and Grandpa's house because it got strip mined. You know, we're talking about the wildlife environment. Okay? Then came along, they started drilling gas wells in the middle 70s. Well, then here we got pipelines going through the middle of things. We got well locations. We got compressor stations. We've been battling that. Then we had another power plant come in at South Park. That's 20,000 acres. Lost its identity, taken from people. One of my best friends, their family farm got threatened on eminent domain, so they forced to sell. They didn't even mind it. They put a high fence around it, put a cabin, a lodge, and it was a getaway for HLMP people. We've been dealing with this stuff. You talk about our rural way of life, okay? Then Richland Chambers come in. Tarrant County needed water. Hey, so here they go. They take family property from people up there. Their grandma, grandpa, and great-grandparents' house, it's underwater. So somebody in Tarrant County can drink. All right? And now people move in and their recreation on top of that land. Those people didn't want to sell that land. Then the oil and gas came back in the 90s with a vengeance. Unprecedented. Drilled 5, it's unheard of for gas wells to be, it was a new deal. I worked for them. I made a living out of oil and gas. I'm not hypocritical, but it was a trade-off. Bought 80 acres off the highway in '99 with 2 young kids. Wondered how we was going to pay for it. I said, well, we'll always cut 10 acres off and sell it to somebody, who got behind. They drilled 5 wells on it. Man, house is wasted. We've been dealing with this stuff, y'all. All right, on the other side, without all of that, y'all talk about a real way of life. When I was in the 70s, the school bus gets stuck, it can be, it wasn't even blacktop roads, it wasn't even gravel on. Without that oil and gas and those utilities, which pay 60 to 70% of the taxes for years, you wouldn't be driving on these blacktop roads. We'd be eating dust. I mean, I'm talking about, it's a trade-off, y'all. We're trying to manage this situation. We've been managing it for 50 years. Other people before us. And we're trying to do the best we can for the people. And I had to say that.
Can I speak to that?
Thank you.
Can I speak to that, though? As somebody whose family has been here since the previous Tuesday, we'd like to feel, though, that the county commissioners are at least, because it does say here, that no, you don't have a whole lot of responsibility for noise control, but they can enforce state regulations. And we'd like to feel like someone has our backs, because I hear that compression plant all the time. You know, my grandparents made decisions, my parents made decisions that I now have to live with. And that's fine, that's life. I do get that. But there are state laws and state regulations that I don't think are always being upheld. And I want to be assured that the people who represent me at the county level are doing their due diligence. And so that is our concern about the data centers as well. If it hasn't happened with the natural gas compression plants, is it going to happen with the data centers?
And what it has been addressed by the county multiple times for lots of years. The compressors, and what we have found is we have reached out to the Borough Commission, to the DCEQ, and it's a pass the buck. It's nobody wants to be responsible for that.
Of course they don't. And we're stuck at the point right now, of course we need revenue. You have to have revenue for hospitals. You have to have revenue for schools. But when we keep having a legislature that makes constitutional amendments where there's just nobody's paying any taxes now, well, of course the corporations are going to get a tax abatement and come in and then have a windfall because, well, I don't want my taxes to go up.
I want to address the noise complaint too, because I have a personal issue with that myself. We have, as the sheriff's office, we have contacted, because we get complaints. And we contact a person, the people we're supposed to, which is the Railroad Commission. There's nothing else we can do if they're the ones that are responsible for keeping up with that. How they do it, what they do, I don't know. I just know that we do report it. I don't like it either. I know we've had I know we mentioned low-level noise in here earlier. Obviously, that's been a problem. We've had people, I know at least two that on top of my head, that have come to Commissioner's Court on a regular basis because they can hear it. I can't. That part doesn't bother me, but it bothers me that that's an issue. But when we turn it over to the people that we're supposed to, I know the county judge has done it, I know the commissioners have listened to it, I know I've done my part as far as our office. We can't help that part because we've done what we were supposed to do.
So then are we going to be really excited when another company wants to come in with something that potentially is going to cause noise pollution?
That you're not going to be able to do anything about because it's just going to be stuck in a circle and nobody wants to stop.
I think that's where the abatement process comes in because they have to abide by what we agreed to as far as the noise. If they do not, then they're going to be at full.
I guess what I'm saying is I wish someone would take it serious when we say that if we were within 100 feet of the loudest part of the data center, which is the chillers on the outside, and they were at the levels, the readings were at the levels that they'll have to be at out here on the edge of the property.
I think the biggest reason why so many of us doubt that is because we see videos of data centers that are very noisy. You say the other, and what correlates along with that is just what the sheriff said, and you guys all know that I respect the heck out of every one of you. I truly do. The problem is that nothing was set up before all of this started. I know you say you posted, I know that it's required, but you could have done differently, because you guys know that I came as a lone voice in the beginning. One voice, and it's growing and growing, and it's growing across the state. I would like, but we can't back it up, just like we can't back up the data center that wants to come here. We can't back that up. But collectively, you guys could have gotten us, Freestone County residents, aware of, hey, we've got this coming. Guys, we need you to know what's going on. We need your voice. We need your input. We need to put, we know where the real problem is. It's Governor Abbott. He has the teeth. All of us need to be calling him and telling, insisting that he gives, because counties don't have the teeth. Governor can give it to us. He can call a special session, and he can do it. You guys can be teaching everybody this. I've been doing it on Facebook all the time. And I'm not taking credit for anything. I'm just saying I am making people aware. We can call the governor. We can insist on a special session. And guess what? Now, an hour and a half ago, but Governor Abbott is finally starting to do something. We could have done this last year. We could have. We could have started a strong voice. And that's all I want to know. I just want to know how we can hold this company accountable as they continue to grow, because we're stuck with them. So we want them to become a real neighbor, like my neighbor next door. When I need to, I go knock on their door. If there's some trash around, and I say, hey guys, if you're too busy, can I mow your lawn for you? You know, we can do those kind of things. I want them to be accountable to us. That's where you guys should have, I think, been accountable and made us get off your couch, come to our meeting, call Governor Abbott, because we've got a data center that wants to come here. You know, I don't want someone not to be able to sell their land, but I don't want them to be able to sell their land to destroy everything else for everybody else. And that's a very fine line. And there's a Judge Becerra down in Hayes County. He said it better than I did. He said, I support all technology and data centers, but not at the expense of our community. And that's how I feel.
I have a question. Yes, I'm a resident here, and we have 10 acres. I toured briefly last week, but I thank you, Cyrus Lund, for being so upfront, because I don't think a lot of the data centers would have done this. So I want you to know I do appreciate you venting the question here. One of the things that I just learned about is the possibility of an agricultural development district. This is something that a lot of the counties are looking at. It is something that would be structured around agricultural preservation, water protection, and environmental monitoring rather than developmental promotion. And I think a lot of you who have done your homework on this realize that the reason this is happening in a lot of areas of Texas is because the areas are not incorporated. It's wide open spaces, there's no regulation, there's nothing. So to me, it sounds like perhaps our county can join the other counties and invest in time and legislation that, yes, Cyrus Lund will probably be here, but the next one that comes in may not be as forthright and may not want to work with us. But if we are in an agricultural development district, that would protect our land, it would protect the values. People that are looking to different areas would hopefully say, okay, what kind of zoning do you get? What are the chances that I'm going to have a facility move next door to me and buy 1,000 acres and put up something that's not regulated, that is, using water resources and everything else? That would be a nightmare. Anyway, that's all I have to say, and I appreciate your time.
My name is Courtney Jackson. I actually had the pleasure of speaking with Commissioner Judge Lane on the phone yesterday for about 40 minutes, asking him my questions that I had over this. And the main thing that I took away from our conversation was that he's a basically, he said it's too late for our town. While the conversation initially eased some of my worries, I remember we do not live in a laboratory where all the variables can be easily controlled. We obviously live in the real world, where variables are much harder to control, and we live in Texas, where we all know it's really hot, and where a lot of people depend on the land for the source of income. So what happens when we end up finding forever chemicals in our soil? You just said it will leak, and even in the most microscopic amount, it will contaminate and forever be in our water and our soil. And it will harm us and animals, even in the most microscopic amount. So to close the loop system, yes, but you just said it's going to come out a little bit. But even, like I said, in those most microscopic amounts, it will be in our water. So what happens when we find these chemicals in the soil or in the water? Are they going to shut down the data center? No, because there are currently no regulations for forever chemicals or even mandated testing for them. The water may not be coming from here, but does that mean it's okay to take it from, and when I talked to him on the phone yesterday, he gave me the name Arkansas for where our water is coming from. Obviously, we know that's not true, but what do you know?
That's the last location that I was told by John Hager. John Hager, who works for Cyrus One, told that to us in court the day that we were having the groundwater district in the courtroom. That more than likely, he said, the water would be coming from Arkansas, be trucked in, be treated water, treated with glycol, corrosion, and everything else.
Well, my point still stands. Is it okay to be taken for those women and children? Leave them suffering? No, absolutely not. You'll build an additional power source, but what happens when it's 110 outside, more data centers get built, and it can't keep up with its demands? Is it going to use ours as backup? No? Okay, well, we'll see. So data centers are quieter than the power source, is what I was told as well, and you all were told today. But what happens when you have multiple plants adding to that noise? Will our quiet town still be quiet? Now, like you said, that is downcasted light, which on the surface sounds like a good idea. But expanded over hundreds of acres, there still will be light pollution, driving out creatures and pollinators, bringing further devastation. Not to mention that Mr. Lane himself confirmed that these data centers aren't just for more cloud storage, but for collecting data on us, for federal level government spying. There is too much real-world evidence out there proving that these centers are not built with our best interests at heart and should not be taken so lightly. So again, my main takeaway is that our local government has seemed to forget that this is a government for and by the people, not for big corporations, personal greed, or for them alone to make huge decisions. It seems they have tried to hide the proposal from us to avoid backlash and fast-track their own agenda. Well, you almost got away with it. But now we know, and you must listen, that there are secrets coming out, and more people are starting to realize the corruption that is being brought into this town. Anyone that is not willing to take immediate, aggressive action or listen to the will of the people should step down or be voted out.
I'm Robert Sharp, and I've been a part of this community for 35 plus years. One thing I value as a veteran is our process of government. We elected you, representatives, to represent us. And I believe that you've done your due diligence on this. I appreciate the company here coming to hear our concerns and present this information to us. Some of us are a little bit Johnny-come-lately to this subject. Commissioner's Court, it's always posted on the agenda. It's public information. You always have an opportunity to come up here and speak to your elected representatives. They always have opening session. 3 minutes. You can line up. How many of you turn out and vote in your primary? We've got 13,000 voters here in this county, somewhere around there. I'm an election judge. I'm precinct 4. These are our neighbors sitting up here. We got people out here in the audience calling it corrupt, saying the process is corrupt. They're putting money in their pockets. If you really believe that, take it to the grand jury. Any one of you can take some information like that and turn it into the grand jury to be investigated. I find it highly offensive to sit here and accuse our neighbors of something like that. I'm old school. We'd be down in the parking lot, Sheriff Shipley over there having some breaking up the situation. I've been known maybe a little bit hot-headed at times. That really got me fired up sitting out here. From a national security standpoint, you got cables that run from San Francisco, Seattle, to our Asian partners, Japan, South Korea, that keep this communication going when the satellites may be under attack during a war. We got enemies around the world, China, North Korea, Iran, people that don't like us, Russia. These data centers provide a national security implication to our country, to our republic that many of us fought and sacrificed for. I'm not saying all of them are good. Some of them probably host porn that we might not want to indulge in or want our kids to access. But that takes some personal responsibility of implementing things in your home to prevent that type of access. Government, having a free society, as we were told by our founders, takes eternal vigilance for liberty. You can't wait till the last minute after these elected officials had to do their due diligence. Go down here and hear the noise. If I had to make a critique, I would have maybe said, go do that before you sign the agreement. You know? The representatives up here are committed to us, and they're going to put this information that's lacking on the website. We're going to have an opportunity to use ChatGPT, upload those forms in and ask our questions to that smart AI. I've got where I use that thing all the time. This is my time. With a lot of people out here been interrupted and most have a lot of time to talk. This is my couple of minutes. Now, there's good and bad. But show up at your commissioner's court, show up at your school board, show up at your city council, write your congressman a letter, get involved. Our country's on fire in a lot of ways. And if we just sit back and do our days, we're all busy, we all got jobs. We don't want taxes to go up when we can't afford or we're not in a position to be able to pass our land and our cattle operation or whatever you're into over to your descendants. There has to be a balance of income. They've expressed what our tax burdens are. We all want low taxes. If you compare our county to surrounding counties, to the big counties, they have a higher burden than we do. Yes, it's spread out amongst more people, but we don't have the people to spread it out over. We don't have the big businesses to bring in huge sales taxes like the Sam's or something that generates a lot of cash flow. So these people that have to weigh all of this, the budget, the need, the hospital, the schools, we have entrusted them to represent us. They're not doing a good job. Some of them had challengers during the primary. We had a town hall meeting over here. Insist on more town hall meetings. Pick you a good candidate in the primary. Run against the one you don't like. That's how we get better government. That's how we improve the system. We just can't show up and bitch at the last minute. And I came here to learn. And then go back and do some more research. And then write my judge, write my commissioner over here. If I tell you every time I call Commissioner Ridge for a problem, he's Johnny on the spot. I have had no problems with any of my elected officials at this local level. And local government is the best of it. So I want to thank you. I thank you for having this town hall meeting. I thank every one of you for showing up and hearing and get your voices heard. That's how we make progress. That's how we make improvement. So let's continue the process. Get those documents up on your website. Maybe make a place where we can sign up on an email list. Anytime we make changes, it goes out to the community. My only constructive concern on the YouTube page, get better microphones so I can hear the judge, and I can hear you, commissioners. I'm one of those guys that turn it on at 11 o'clock at night, that's so I fall asleep. So, there's my pitch for today. Thank you.
Did I hear you say one of the companies that bought Cyrus out was BlackRock? I may have misunderstood.
Yeah, there's two owners. There's two primary owners of the company. One is BlackRock and one is KKR.
That's one thing. My second question is to the Cyrus group here. Where do you guys live at?
I live in Dallas, and I wanted to let you know we do have a website for Freestone. Send it to the judge, we need to get it to the paper. You can find it by going to cyrus1.com and searching Freestone in the search bar. So I wanted to finish that. I live in Dallas. 75231.
I'm born and raised in Texas, and I live there now.
And I spend my time in Dallas and California.
All right, so none of you guys live out in rural areas, have farms, anything like that. Is that correct?
Correct.
So if they were building a Cyrus or another data center in your backyard, would you have issues with that?
I live
And
in
why don't you allow it now?
So there's a very, very big difference, and it just is unfortunately the truth, that cities have zoning regulations. So I wouldn't, personally, I wouldn't purchase a house next to an industrial park. I wouldn't. But that's because I live in the city. And in the county, you don't have zoning regulations. So I think Crip said it, and I'll say it too late. We understand your concern, and we rightfully so.
But you'll put an industrial park beside a house.
We don't.
But you won't live on it.
We try extremely hard at all of our facilities to distance our buildings from residential homes.
And that's why you picked Freestone County. It's kind of that big.
We picked Freestone. We picked Freestone County specifically because of the land and the power availability.
What?
The land and the power availability.
That you're stealing from the Freestone Energy Center? You're leveraging the community by taking the power away from the Freestone Energy Center to power your batteries.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Power away from the community.
Yeah, you're leveraging our community by taking away its power, right? You are right next to the desk, or the Freestone Energy Center, yes?
We are not taking power from the grid. We're building our own power in alignment with what's currently there.
What are you gonna have? What kind of generation are you gonna have?
So they have a surplus of generation currently at their facility. We're building a substation, our own substation on site that we are paying for to pay their surplus of power for our facility.
The substation doesn't generate power.
Correct. There's a surplus of power from that facility, from the Calpine facility.
From the power plant?
Correct.
Sorry, I want to get about the old Calpine plant and the new plant. The two gas turbines out there for years. Yeah, 20 years plus. This new plant, it's what they call, Kevin, it's a dual cycle.
Yes.
Combined cycle.
Combined cycle units.
Which means it can fluctuate with how the grid needs the power a little bit easier. That new plant is putting power into the grid. The old plant is what I've been told that Cyrus wanted to purchase the power from the old plant. And that's where their power's going to come from.
Gotcha. And then, so y'all are partnered with BlackRock, right? Or owned by BlackRock?
Yeah. So the way the company used to be a publicly traded company, it was taken private. There's two buyers. One was KKR, there was another company called Global Infrastructure Partners. Global Infrastructure Partners has been subsequently acquired by BlackRock. So that's why we have those two big owners.
So y'all are gonna have Palantir then inside these facilities as part of your technology?
We can hear you. What did you say?
I said, are they gonna have Palantir inside these facilities since they're, equally partnered with BlackRock?
So BlackRock is a company that has $14 trillion in assets they invested in work. You have to understand what we're trying to do. What we build is we build a data center and we have a certain number of customers. We make a very small list of customers that we work with. It's like the American giants like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Meta. Those are our four biggest customers. We don't work with Bitcoin miners. Palantir would qualify for a certain list of qualifications. So no, to be very clear, no, we have these 4 or 5 big customers that we work with. Oracle is okay.
largest COD contracts in the nation?
No, what I think
For AI?
no. You might be thinking we were selected by the government to build data centers in Dugway.
That's right.
And the reason they wanted to do that is they wanted to be able to utilize government land to build data centers. And so that's what they wanted us to do.
You're right.
Yeah.
What percentage of the components that you're building are made in the United States?
That's an excellent question.
I don't know the answer, but I'm going to make it up.
But the summary statement is we don't, like, if the subtext of the question is, are we buying anything that's Chinese manufactured? So the answer to that is simply no, and that's for security reasons, because to the point about being a government, kind of selected provider, we have to be very, 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 very specific about national security. I think the gentleman mentioned national security. We have certain clearances that obviously we can't buy certain vendors, and so we don't have any following. We very consciously don't buy Chinese manufactured anything. If that was the subtext of your question.
I actually have a question for Sarah's one is, I think someone asked it, but it never got actually answered, was what happens to the water in the closed loop systems that, like, eventually that's going to need replaced or...
The question, yes. We made a list of all the questions, and we'll make sure that Erica's left cards on the table, so if you want to get cards, we
But
can...
where is it done?
There's, do you want to talk about it? So the water system, the cooling system is never replaced. It's never done up. And you're welcome to, and I encourage any of you, if you are in the DFW region, to drive by one of our facilities. You can drive right in front of them and see how close they are to residents. You can get out of your car and hear it. You can see, if there's any emissions or things like that. To hold truth, like you can literally drive out to our facility and stand outside and listen to it. But for our water systems, we have yet to have a facility where we had any incident where there was leakage or we had to replace the coolant system. It is treated water, but we haven't had a facility where we had to dump all the water out and put water back in. In an instance where something like that would happen, we do have on-site septic systems that we use for domestic use, and then we also have different types of drainage systems to capture that water if there was ever an incident. We have never had one listed in the history of the company to date.
But it's only been like, what, 5 or 6 years, you said?
No, our facility is in business for 25 years.
And then I guess this is more for the commissioners, what are the consequences if the contract abridgments, basically if they break something in their contract, if what they're saying about the water is not true, if they take more power, like what are the consequences for them, and are they even strong enough to keep them from doing that?
I think, again, there's a misunderstanding that we have all this power and control and can hold these people to anything, and that's not true.
Well, that's fair.
If we allow them to have an abatement, then whatever we can get them to put in writing is in writing. And if they violate anything in that agreement, then it's null and void. All that does is they lose their abatement. It still doesn't mean that we get to go in and take over their company. We don't have that power.
The state should be responsible for holding them accountable.
They will put up a bond with the state. They do not have to put up with the bonds in the county. We can't even ask them to put up a bond for what they're building, because they're building it on private land. If they were using a county road to get to their property, then yes, we could make them give us a bond or a road use agreement. We've got a road use agreement in place with them for the phase 1 of this anyway, in case they deny materials that happens to come off of the county road. So we did get a road use agreement as well as the noise and water and all that. But again, I just hate the misconception that if they break one of their promises, what's the accountability? There's only one accountability. They lose their abatement. It doesn't give us any more power. They just lose their abatement. But that's it's being talked about in, this upcoming legislature. It had a special session, I would love that. But I mean, for people to come and think that we can do anything at this local level, it's nice for us to hear your voice. You still got to call your college. You still got to call your state.
Well, that's why we voted for and magnify it to the people that have the power to change things.
And we can do
That's
that.
what we want from you guys.
Those calls have already been made, what I'm saying is it takes everybody. Just
Yes, and
because we
I
hold these
personally
positions
have
don't mean that we
taken
have that much more clout than anybody else.
I go to Austin about 3 times a year, and I stay in touch with my legislature and my senators and everybody. I can assure you, from my point of view, I will be talking about, because it's an issue with me, when we have a problem and the state that's supposed to be tending to it is not tending to it. So I can assure you that that will be part of my conversation when I go to Austin. And I'm going in July or August next, so.
And I think that's like a lot of our issues with it, is the deregulation of these things to allow them to build, so where there is really no safety standards. I've also been in contact a couple times with the TCEQ, and just learning, really, I never even heard of it before, but I called them, and basically they can't do anything until something's already been done, environmentally hazardous-wise. But what I kept been told by multiple people there is that these things are popping up so fast that they can't keep up, or they don't even have really any new regulations for these things. There's no policy right now to regulate them efficiently. And so it's just kind of like, oh, well, something's going to happen, but then it's just going to be too late. Like,
I just wanted to make a quick note. My team and I work a lot with TCQ, U.S. Army Corps. Yes, we do have third-party vendors that vet all of our reports. But our reports have to be submitted to TCQ and the Army Corps for them to make sure that we are being held accountable from environmental, water, and like impact studies that we do. We try really hard at all of our facilities that if we get a complaint or if we get a what's called a violation notice of a neighbor that says, you know, maybe that our facility was too loud, as soon as we get that call, we put every management place impossible to fix that issue.
so the facilities have had complaints of being too loud.
No, we don't actually. We had one happen recently, and we have a facility up in Chicago. That's not my district, so I don't remember exactly what building it was. The facility's been there for 10 years and has never had one complaint. Recently, there's also been a lot of social media posts about data centers in general, and so somebody did put a complaint about the facility. It's been there for 10 years, nobody ever complained. Somebody went in and put a complaint in. Our team went out, looked at the facility, went and met with this resident, tried to hear what they were hearing, if they could hear it. Like, we take those violations very seriously as a business. And again, we spend quite a bit of time on the front end, making sure that we're, like all the reports in the Hill County development standards that she pointed out, those are pretty standards that every developer has to pull whenever they're looking at a property. So every single one of those reports have already, that study's already been done on this property.
So my follow-up question is, so what did you do to fix the situation?
For you?
Yeah, Eric, it's not Eric, it's just like I said, what we did is just be very clear that there wasn't a formal complaint, but what we decided to do just be a good neighbor and to make sure that people aren't suffering. We put in a $15 million sound wall, it's called a continuation wall, and basically what it does is it blocks the sound, so like it's a long concrete barrier that basically makes sure that the sound bounces back into the generator or the chiller or whatever.
And our standard now is that all of our facilities have that wall. For our new facilities. That facility will have that wall. Yes, yeah. Well, all of our facilities now have sound attenuation.
Where can we find the environmental impact study that's been done?
So there will be memos on, so like Katie said, we have a Freestone, it's called a Freestone FAQ page. You can find it on our website. Those reports will be linked in there along with the environmental study and our sustainability study. Sorry. If you ask us a question today, and I know this low hum frequency, so the reason we don't have any information on is we've never been asked that question before. It's a recent thing that people have been asking us. So we will make sure that we have this study where we'll have it posted as well, at least as results. So all the questions that were asked today will be addressed on that website. There will also be an email link, so if you have a question that's not addressed on that website, you can email us directly and say, I have an additional question that I would like information on. And if it's relevant, we'll post it on the website. So it'll consistently be updated with information as residents ask for them. And then my business card is there as well. If you have a question, you're welcome to email me or shoot me a text message. And I mean, I do this all the time. It's probably I still stop, but if there's a question and I can address it, I'm happy to do so. And if I don't know the answer, I will get the answer for you.
Comm.
Yes.
I just scrolled through it, I looked at page by page, it's a lot of pages.
Yeah.
Could you be a little more specific about
Go to
where to
this,
find?
go to the search,
Well, I couldn't find the search.
the little magnifying.
We can help you on your phone.
I know what we can do, we can post a link on the
Yes.
county website, so you can just click the link and take you directly to it. Because I got that link from them yesterday. It's about 20 questions.
Yes.
That have answers. I thought it was good, I didn't even know it existed until yesterday.
Yeah. So we'll make sure that it's posted live. And we can help you on your phone. Yes. Yep.
I missed the meeting last week, and I'm wondering, is this going to cause my electric bill to go up?
So it will not. So Cyrus One pays for all of our own upgrade infrastructures to get power to our facility. We take pride in the fact that what our projects do does not impact resident rates. Yes, sir.
First off, y'all have no facts that are correct. I work for the water system, north of Fairfield on 488. I was contacted for water being used for construction.
Okay.
Did y'all know that?
That our general contractor
You know what y'all have to do? You have to go perk it 2 wells to get y'all construction water. That's not even been mentioned here at all.
Well, we're talking about operationally, our construction does have to get their own water to do the construction on the site. That's separate.
And now we bring that forward, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, sir, nobody asked me about the construction water. But yes, that's correct. Our general contractor has a separate contract where they get water temporarily during construction. Yes.
And to your point of email and y'all will answer a question, I asked a simple question, would somebody be here for these meetings? I've never gotten a response.
Did you email me?
On the Cirrus One website.
Okay, thank you for letting me know that. At a different town hall, another resident said that John Hayden is our president and CEO, and when we got back to the office, he said, figure out where that email went, and I want a response right now. So I will go back, Katie and I will look and figure out why you didn't get a response to that question.
Okay. I have a second question. It's pertaining to what our local government has the ability to do and not to do. If our elected officials say no to phase 2, will Sirius continue with construction of phase 2?
Are you asking Cyrus One?
I can't answer your question.
Will you build phase 2 if our elected officials say no to reinvestment zone?
So I want to make sure I perfectly understand your question. So you're asking if somehow the commissioners say that we do not want you to build, would we still build?
Yes, phase 2.
Well, the reinvestment
Yes.
zone, if you don't get the tax abatement of the reinvestment zone, will you still build?
Yeah.
Well, so the answer is no. We're not trying to be abrasive and fight the community abrasive. We're not welcome. Like if the commissioner basically say, like, hey, this is done, we're done.
You haven't purchased that second 200 acres yet, you have not purchased it?
You're not close like that. That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, so actually, our elected officials have more power than what I thought they did because of y'all's decision.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it would be a Cyrus One decision to proceed with or without tax payment.
And more than likely, the first thing that would happen is some other data company would go to that same willing seller because they know that there's power right across the road. So you got to keep that in mind.
What is y'all's plans? Y'all been tearing down all the trees, clearing it. What is y'all's landscaping plan? Are y'all gonna try to make that more pleasant to look at for everybody traveling on the road? Is there something online with those plans?
Yes, so one of the things that we are facing, Katie and I, as we're kind of doing our tour of Texas, meeting with residents, is how can we make our facilities, our landscaping look. If you go to our Plano facility, it looks very Plano. And so what can we do even to make our facilities in a more rural community look more natural and like using natural vegetation. Maybe we're talking about with different facades for the front of the building. So we will be doing landscaping on site. We would like to use natural vegetation so that it can look more like the community that that building's in, and those are things that we're discussing now.
You could have saved a lot of money by leaving 100 foot of that natural vegetation that was already there.
We tried to leave as much, we tried to leave as much of that buffer road as we could. It's a very tight spot for the buildings. So yeah, we have, yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
How close to the road is it going to be to the closest building?
Typically, we're about 300 to 500 feet from the neighborhood. And in the tax abatement agreement, we do have a setback from any residential home, but there isn't a residential home buffering our facility right now.
Noise, what about construction noise? Is that daytime only or?
Yes, so the biggest, hardest huddle of any development is during construction. There will be noise during construction. Our construction team typically runs a 7 to 7 and sometimes 2 shifts. That will probably, we don't do construction overnight, we don't do construction over the weekends. It would be during the week, 7 to 7. And the bulk of, I think where we see the most activity is typically in the beginning during earthwork, so when we're grading the property.
What percentage of the construction workers are hired locally?
So there's, just reiterating again what the county judge said, so the tax abatement agreement has regulations on, we have to try to employ 50% of our construction workers to be within the county. If there's no tax abatement, we're allowed to bring people in from other places. Our preference is always to hire local. So our GC will come in, they'll do job fairs, we'll do hiring on site. We really try as a company, but then also an obligation to the county to hire local for all the construction work. And we try to use local restaurants for catering, events, things like that. For signage, like when we have to print signs, anything we can do to contribute locally is what we try to do.
One last thing I'm going to get out there. You said that the decibel levels were 60 per building, right? Something along that line?
Yes, yes.
How many total buildings are you trying to put there? And are you taking into account with y'all's abatement about being 55 to 60, the cumulative levels of 60 decibels? So
it's not.
It gains ground the more you have.
Yes, so it's not per building. It doesn't matter how many buildings we have in there. At the property line, it has to be with 60 decibels.
Okay.
And our buildings, again, we have a really sophisticated engineering team, so we try to attenuate as much sound as we can to be inside of the building and inside of our gen yard, so that way, even when you're standing in a parking lot in front of our building, you should not be able to hear.
So realistically, 60 is a high level. You're probably going to be quite a bit lower in anticipation of the total amount of coming at the road.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Oh, yes. I have a question. I have 2 questions, actually. One question is, how much, statistically, how many jobs are gained during the building process? And statistically, how many jobs are lost after the facility is finished being built?
So typically during construction, we can hire anywhere from 200 to 300 people for construction. I will say, I don't know the statistics of how many of those construction workers stay, become full-time employees because they're contracted through our general contractor. What I will say is that our operations team, typically a lot of those guys started in construction, they're familiar with their buildings, they're really hard workers, and we try to keep them as long as we possibly can. But I can look and see if we have any statistics from our department.
Okay, I guess as somebody with a healthcare background, have you guys done any studies on health implications with data centers in general?
This won't be perfect. I don't have an exact answer, but at the groundbreaking last week, I sat with our head of health and safety, and it was really cool to hear some of the work that she's shepherding on site at the Bosque site. I didn't realize we have full healthcare teams on the site. She said a lot of these construction workers maybe don't take the best care of themselves, but if it's convenient, you can go see a nurse while you're at work. They take full advantage of that, which I thought was really cool. But what was your specific question, and I'll be glad to follow up.
Just long-term implication, health implication for faculty members.
side of the thing. So as Kate mentioned, these buildings are just basically big buildings with a bunch of servers in them. And so what makes them more sophisticated is like the cooling equipment and like the things that keep them up long. But it's the same exact mission critical infrastructure that hospitals use. And so the reason, I mean, bluntly, the reason we never wanted to study the long-term impacts of data centers is because the life-giving spaces like hospitals are using the same exact infrastructure to support the building, and on the inside of the building is simply servers. So like, we're constantly surrounded by computers anyhow. So that's, I mean, just to explain why we haven't really done long-term studies as an industry, it's because it didn't feel really necessary to be quite candid.
Will any of your unit components be manufactured in China?
Sure, I think there was a similar question earlier, but yeah, we have a lot of government relationships, and then we have like scale level type of facilities that we can build. And so the point is we're simply not allowed to.
I'll just make a suggestion to the community. We don't want you to develop that phase 2 on the 200 acres. It's still the free market. Collectively, we can go and compete with Cyrus One and make a bid to that landowner and turn it into a park for all these little critters. So it's a big blessing we're in a free marketplace and we can do something like that. Thank you. Y'all done a great job.
Thank you so much.
I do have one more question.
Oh, yes.
There's 256 counties in the state, hopefully 254. 460 data centers so far, roughly 264.
Okay.
And these are all located in 35 counties only.
Yes.
That's roughly 15 data centers per county off the top of my head.
Yes.
If you guys approve this, are you just going to keep building them? It seems like every county that gets involved with this all of a sudden has 15 of them. So we start with 1 and 2. I want to know where the commission draws the line.
Yes. Do you want to talk?
I want to know where the Cyrus thinks.
Yeah.
You plan on building another one here?
So I think that it's an excellent point. The reason there's a lot of concentration within certain counties is because where the power is. So if you go to like Abilene, Texas, which is quite famous for the Stargate data center complex that's being built up as a huge gigawatt scale data center, the reason Oracle and OpenAI decided to locate there is because that's where there was the ability to build power. And so that's why like there tends to be this hyper concentration. But as we mentioned, we're like, and I hope this is evident, we're truly trying to be transparent. We're truly trying to be members of the community. It's a 25-year company. We're trying to distance ourselves from like some of the lower quality peers. And so by coming in a community, we're trying to invest in the long term. You don't build a 25-year business, build 60 data centers throughout, and build the type of customer relationships that we build if it worked for kind of thinking for the long term. So that's I think we like to differentiate ourselves versus some of the other peer group.
How many?
Well, so how many what?
How many do you plan on building here?
So our plan is 4, and then if we build, if we do phase 2, there's a limit of how much power there would be. So it's, frankly, we're not going to ever build, no one can ever build 100 data centers in this county.
You said 4?
There's 4 buildings.
Right, there's a limit to the amount of power that's available in an area.
And that's the only limiting factor.
Well, they'll also factor in water and land, yes. There's different layers of what helps constitute what we would consider a viable site. Power is one of the main factors, but water, land availability, development risks, things like that are all associated and evaluated on the front end.
And it really is a supply and demand industry.
Correct.
It's not necessarily going to be Cyrus One building them, not necessarily here, but as long as our economy requires them and our lifestyles require them, they get built.
When do you think it's strange or scary how all these are all of a sudden popping real fast in these numbers? I mean, it's disturbing. Doesn't it raise any questions? Why?
Well, so I think the nail on the head, which is like, so if you look at like American GDP, a lot of the GDP that's being produced in this country is because of the tech industry, right? So a lot of the innovation that's coming out is, for better or worse, like I'm not passing any judgment on it, I'm just saying these are the numbers and these are the facts. And so it is a supply and demand story, so we want to support kind of American progress and, and growth in the global hemisphere, right? We don't want to lose the AI race. We're or the technology race, forget AI. I think AI is kind of a whole other scary animal for many. But from a technology perspective, from a competitive perspective, I don't want America to fall behind some of our rivals in the global marketplace. And so that's why having the 5 best companies on the planet and the 10 best companies on the planet being US-based companies, and that's why they want to grow here. That's what's propping up all the need. And what we want to do, we want to be responsible. Right? I'm acutely aware there's a lot of people who are willing to cut a corner. And frankly, I get it because there's a lot of money to be made, and a lot of people thought that, this is all about dollars. Yes, it is a lot about dollars. But the fact is that, we don't, it is more painful to, take the extra effort to build the sustainable facility. It's more painful to have these conversations. We could forego the abatement and not have this conversation, but we're trying to come here and actually have that conversation. I think some of our peer group are willing to not do that, and that's, I think, you build a long-term business by trying to do the right thing. We made mistakes. Trust me, we made a ton of mistakes. We talked about trees that we should not knock down in other places. We've made tons of mistakes. I'm not pretending for a second that we're perfect, but we're certainly trying. We're trying to listen to say, what are the questions that, we're not perfect, or we don't know all the questions that people may have. So we're taking notes as to what questions, we never thought about the low frequency sound stuff because it hasn't come up until recently. I don't know where it's come from, but it's come up, so that's something we think we have to study, and we're happy to do that. That's something that we just hadn't thought of.
Have you ever heard of non-invasive neuromodulation?
No.
What was the term again?
Non-invasive neuromodulation.
Non-invasive neural modulation.
We've heard of DARPA.
Yeah.
I saw a video, guy was giving a speech. His name is Dr. James Jones. He starts talking about DARPA's next big project. The project was putting all the metals out into the air, putting in vaccines and metals. A little bit, whatever. And the point of the project is to control everybody's mind. Now, this is going to sound crazy, but they inject people with nanotechnology. They don't produce that, right? So everybody's got these metals in it. They can drop it through the sky, and put it in water, it's in vaccines and all of this that's been going on. But this doctor that I watched bragged about how DARPA is going to invade our cerebral space. They're going to do it not crudely, but creatively. They're going to get the metals into us, and they're going to use them by gene. And the end game is that they're going to control our cerebral sphere with the cybersphere. And then he called it the cloud, which is the reason I didn't mention this, because earlier she called it the cloud. As soon as she said it, I was like, wow. If this is even a possibility that these people are trying to build this up to control the public, I mean, in real time, reading information in your mind and taking it out, complete violation of everything. How do we know it's not that bad? I mean, do we really know what the AI is the question. And if this doctor's correct, I mean, this is crazy. It's like our government, it's like government takes it completely out of control. You know what I'm saying? Does any of this make any sense?
I don't really very much about this.
I'm trying to see how it's relative to I see what you're saying, and you're looking at a lot bigger picture.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to wrap my head around why they need so much power and so many data centers and so much energy. With this type of energy.
Like I say, it's a good question for them. It's nothing that the county's going to know. We've always looked at it from the standpoint that there's power plants out there. These data centers, they have to have power. And I know Leon County went through a lot of stuff, and they were trying to put a power plant in an area where they were just going to take power from the grid. There was no power plant close to that. I'd be against that. If they were going to use 1 billion gallons of groundwater a day or more, I would be against that. I'm not for anything that we haven't already done before, and apparently we made out okay. The man was talking about the construction water a while ago.
world. They're buying, they're buying. And I don't hold you, I don't blame you guys at all for those things. I don't. I blame the state for letting this in. This should have never happened. They should have never been able to provide what this provided. But it's done, and it is what it is. I'm not here to point the finger and say you should have. I just don't want to see, once one gets approved, then there's another, and then there's 6 or 8 of them, or whatever. I mean, is there a line here? You guys have another line, how many people are going to let them in here, or where's the line?
It goes back to the authority, so we don't, if the government wants to allow them to put one building every 10 acres, and they buy 500 acres, they can put 50 of them, and we can't stop it. We don't have that authority, that's right.
You have no authority to incorporate there, because that's the regulations, and you can't, there's no way to regulate it. It just seems there.
It's a private company practicing free enterprise.
But if they're raping, I should say raping, but if they're raping the land, if they are taking the water management, and they are taking the energy, some of these wells that they drill, I heard, are 1,500 feet deep. Is anybody around, but it's got a well, it's going to run before they're stealing the water from everybody's property. If that's it, maybe there's a well there, or whatever. There's no
These people
accountability.
can get those permits and do that, they have to go through many steps of groundwater district. Like I said, we had president of that association at the meeting on December the 3rd or 17th, I don't know which one, on the reinvestment plan. But, you know, that was not even an option for them. So they, you know, that's when they told us that they would be getting their water, I was told, from Arkansas. Get your pre-treated when they got here, 40,000 gallons per system. That's what we've had to go on.
Does anybody here scratch their head at all wondering why so much so fast? Doesn't it make you wonder what is going on? It's not, all of a sudden don't need this AI. What is actually going on? Maybe made a comment about patient privacy. I don't know why I got up, because the kids that I've learned, this is a whole other level of things. And I didn't want to say anything about what I've learned because it's not what I don't want to scare you on what I've learned about it. You know what I'm saying? But to me, it's like pure evil. It's like the devil's knocking on the door, and they're going to come in, they're going to take this land because the government wants it to. The governmental, control your mind. They're going to come in, they're going to buy it, spend the money, they're going to do whatever they want. And then what? When the land's dried up, I mean, what about the people? Do you think any of these people, even these people, truly care about the people of Fairfield? I mean, come on. Really, either way they're going to build it. They're going to do what they want. But the question is, if this is good versus evil, don't you make a stand somewhere? At what point do you say, wow, this is out of control? These are evil people that are funding this. You can bet without a doubt. There is a battle of evil and good going on right now. You have to choose a side. All that needs to happen for evil to win is good people to do nothing. I don't want to take any more time. I appreciate the fact you gave us an opportunity to talk. I don't personally hold any accountable. It's business. We have to, you know, there's other ways to do it. I do like you say, I think the government should completely account for every one of these things shown in Texas. I love this town. Every night I walk my dog around this road. I look at it. I go by the monuments. I'll never let it be on them. Not of all of them. My favorite part of the way is the letter from the elm. I stand there and it just gets me right in my heart. These people that died and they knew they were going to die and they stayed anyways. If they were to see a situation where all these big, rich, powerful people, not necessarily God-fearing people, rich and powerful, come in and buy this land, just rape it, take what they want, kill the animals, just destroy it. How would they feel? Look at it. I mean, really, this Texas is a great state. I never expected to see all of these rich people buy their way in here and just have their way with it. It's offensive. It really is. I didn't expect that down here. I walk my dog around here. They'll occasionally poop on your lawn. I pick it up every time. And every time I walk around, I'll pick up any garbage laying around. I leave things better than I find it. That's my nature. You guys should probably try to do the same thing. You know, if you can stop this, stop it. Don't use this as a way to just fund it. Money is the root of all evil. It's not just the root, it's the whole tree. This country is a defection. This country has serious problems. There's a lot of evil people going on. That being said, there's a lot of good people too. You gotta choose. You gotta.
I see your point, sir. I mean, I wouldn't want to mislead anybody to think that there's a monetary gain for the county to be considered. Again, we're not. That still doesn't give us more power. You know?
And any monetary gain doesn't justify this influence in my eyes. Texas is sacred ground. Texas has the best people in the nation. That's
But
what I
Texas also has private property rights, and that's where we're at. Until you change that, and you're talking about people on both sides of the fence, you know. But Texas is a private property rights state, and when a private company buys property, as long as they're not in violation of state or federal law, they can do what they want to. And your local commissioner's board is going to sit back and watch just like you. We can get with Sam, we can call our representative, we can, Greg Abbott's, the lady with economic development out of the governor's office. She was up here in the courthouse last week. We spent about 30 minutes and I was talking, and I shared the concerns, but what was popping up on social media, the calls that I got, that it seemed like he's the one that invited all this in. And the biggest thing that worries us as commissioners is that when your county does start receiving funds from these, the state of Texas is going to treat it just like they did the schools. And they're going to say, you know what, I think we can budget better for that county than they can themselves. So we'll just take all their money and then we'll send them back where they think they need. If they ever start robbing Boone county tax money like they do our school money, then it'd be horrible. And so that was my message to her to send back to Governor Abbott, is that we're watching it. You know, that's the last thing that we would want to see happen. And that there's not there enough testing for, like we were talking about, the forever chemicals. Because right now, these local water companies that have to take samples every week and send them to Waco to TCEQ, they're not testing for the PFAS. So it's something that does need to be tested for. And there are people that are asking the Environmental Protection Agency to start implementing that, you know, for all of the states. But where that's at right now, I don't know. Like I say, I'm assuming that there's a lot going to get done in this legislative session. But what you can get done between now and then is just try to grow your support and get your message across.
Especially with the rule like a freight truck, which is the nature of it. It's got me scratching my head. Another lady made a comment about the people that sold the properties. I kind of blame them. You know, you say, well, did you want to take the money and this and that? But you're selling the property to other people, and you know what they're going to do with it. I mean, if they really love the property, no amount of money is going to. Money's evil. I know poor people that are millionaires. 3 of them are millionaires. I mean, 3 of them are losers. They're not happy people. The only guy I know who has any money that's actually happy, nobody knows he has it. It's incredible. Money's not happiness. It is truly evil. You look at the dollar bill, the God we trust. Here, we're not talking about Jesus Christ. These people have a whole other agenda. And this is good versus bad. I'm here to tell you. It's as real as it comes. I came down here from Cook County, Illinois, which is the most corrupt county in the whole country. Chicago is a bomb pit. I come down here to get away from all the 5G because it affects my heart. It makes it palpitate. I get down here. God led me to Fairfield, no doubt. Had the next way to the test. Bought the house 16 hours after crossing the border, which is incredible how it happened. I come down here, my heart's fine. And all of a sudden, the devil's knocked on the door. We're building this, we're building that. Oh, God. Here we go again. These are truly evil people that are signing this. You do not have to attend. This is not going to make anybody any smarter. Artificial intelligence. Real intelligence comes from facing obstacles, solving problems. Grow intelligence, take it with them. Other people come across the obstacle, go around, and they self-destruct. These are the people that are paying for this. The ones that can't think for themselves. That need the AI. just Texas. This is on a national scale. There's truly deep-rooted equal problem with our government. And we need to see it right. Somebody's got to do something. All it needs to happen for people to win, good people do nothing. I wasn't going to say anything. Because a lot of the stuff I had to say is, it's out there. But this is, I'm a science guy. I've learned this over years. I don't Google. I don't carry the phone. I don't like it. I don't want it. I'd be happy if they put landlines in here. We got involved somewhere. These cell phone towers they talk about, every military branch considers them energy weapons. Now think about that. Remember I was here last week, we talked a little bit about the radiation, energy and stuff. Regardless, when I was from, it went from 1 to, it's going to be, here's what they say, it's going to be fast rate. It went from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and it never got faster. But I can tell you this, in 2002, I walked out of my door one day, and there was thousands of dead birds, all speckled starlings, main bird in my town, dead everywhere, just like that. The government says, oh, well, it's a bird flu. Okay. So COVID comes along, I do a little research, and it sends me to this newspaper article in New York saying how the government was helping this farmer on the East Coast that came up with this poison that kills it, and they took responsibility. They don't take responsibility. Those birds died and they turned on the fridge.
Thank you for that off there. We appreciate you coming, sir. Anybody else?
Judge Lane, can I have the floor?
Yes, sir.
My name is Jerry Donald McLeod. I've lived here my entire life. I'm 62 years old. I went to college at Sam Houston, graduated down there and come home. Everything that's being said here, we've already dealt with. But when you vote your elected officials in, there's 5 guys right here that they have done their due diligence. If I build buildings for a living, if I want to know what beam will hold a building, I don't just dream that up. I go to an engineer. I talk to the smart people. That's what you're supposed to do. That's the way I was taught. Fairfield High School. That's where I got my start. Everything that we've talked about now for 2 weeks has just been negative, 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 negative. Well, these guys have done their due diligence, or they wouldn't have brought this to us to vote on, for them to vote on. They've allowed us this time that we could come up here and we could talk. Well, we're not getting anywhere like this. All we're doing is just creating a bunch of enemies. These people's coming whether we want them or not. It's these guys' job now to see how we're going to tax them. So for us to get along with these people, what are we going to get from them? That's basically what we're here for. And so we've got to depend on our elected officials to lead us. If we don't, what are we elected for? If you want their job, run against them. And then you sit there, and then when one of these things comes at you, then you're going to find out what a hot seat they're in. I've known all them guys my whole life, and I can promise you they're not for using water that's not necessary. They're not for bad environmental stuff. They're not for any of that stuff that we've talked about. I have a farm and a ranch. I have irrigation water. I'm the president of Pleasant Grove Water. So water is a big deal to me. I've been watching water for a long, long time. And the conservation of water is not just happening. It's not just happening, okay? This thing is nothing but a supply and demand. If you want the data center to roll their stuff up and leave, turn that phone off, because you're the problem. If you keep using that phone and keep using that computer, well, you're creating the demand, and they've got the supply. That's the bottom line. If we don't, you're shaking your head, but that's the problem.
We already have data centers for that.
Right. Yeah.
We already have data centers for that.
That's right.
It's headed
And we
toward a
keep
cashless
asking for
system.
more and more.
There's a
and
lot more
faster
things going on
computers
behind the scenes.
and we want more and more and more. Well, if we don't like it, we can quit using it. And it'll go away. But here's what I would say in this whole deal. I'm a Christian man. If you want to know what you need to vote, or know what you need to do in the county, and support these guys or not support these guys, I think we ought to all get on our knees and figure out really where we at on this deal. If you're not a Christian, I'm sorry. You need to be. But if you don't support these guys, then run against them. But they've got a really big step to make. And it's all about how they're gonna tax this thing and what we can get from it. And the whole thing is, it doesn't really have anything to do with, oh, we're gonna get it or not. It's a reinvestment zone. That's what you're voting on. Doesn't have anything to do with if we're gonna stop them from doing it, because they're gonna do it. Okay? Thanks for listening.
I just want to say that some of us, I support you. I'm in full support of all of you. I just want to ask the questions that I feel like we all need.
I feel the same way. In fact, I've said it again today. I support every one of you five. I actually support you three that came in here. I appreciate you guys for coming here. I just want answers. That's all. That's all I want. I just want to know really what is the bottom line for all of us. What is going to happen. But I would like to show as much respect as possible. And I do appreciate everyone.
You got those answers.